Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
He's now acknowledging that he was on the machines during the election of 2020 on a remote desktop, which is what I've been telling you for, for a year and a half. I've been talking about there's been this virtual machine created inside the system that they do all their shenanigans from, and then they erase it. And that's why there's almost no trace of anything unless you get the heart of the hard drive itself. Can you find, if you look in the right places, the traces that show that that's what happened? That's why all the legal battles were about preventing anyone from inspecting the equipment. So that's a huge bombshell. The significance of that is on 2022 and elsewhere in this, he talks about Serbia. He's talking about the folks in Serbia accessing the code. He's accessing the Dominion systems. Oh, but he says they just get the code repository. Well, I'm telling you, that's a flat lie. They get access to the whole system, including the remote desktops on the machines in the counties where you're voting.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, the Eric Coomer gift. Where would we be if Eric Coomer wouldn't have been on that call? Where would we be right now? Would we be having a conversation about Eric Coomer? Would anybody even know his name? Yesterday we were talking about, I was sitting down and I was talking about pseudo-government agencies and for-profit entities doing the work of a government agency so it can basically forego the ability to be audited, to get access to private information because it is not a government organization. But Eric Coomer had to admit some things, and I was on the help me deposition. Thank you. Somebody whispered in my ear. I felt like Victor Marx there for a minute. But I was on the deposition and I was listening to him say that, oh, it wasn't me. It was the Serbians. And I keep thinking to myself, the more and more we put together information, depending on where you look, the more rocks you overturn, the more information you get related to Eric Coomer specifically. Everywhere you turn, Eric Coomer is there. And I didn't really know why Eric Coomer would go out and go after anyone that let me speak. But it makes sense. If he could silence anyone that gave me a platform, and he could have the platforms also suppress me and stop me from speaking, which they did do, both on the side of the radical left or the technocracy over there, and on our side. He was able to go in and say, hey, tap, tap, nod, nod, do me a favor. I need you to suppress Mr. Oltmann. I've been canceled from every platform as a result of this. And if you still don't think that there's election fraud, after getting all the information that you have from Georgia and Nevada and Colorado, I want to show you this. This is from Shiloh Marks, unfortunately related to a person I think is terrible, but Shiloh is not. He's been working on this election fraud for quite some time. 11 states and D.C. reportedly have more registered voters than citizens of voting age in 2024. Let me just go through this list for you. Alaska, Colorado, Delaware, D.C., Georgia, Kentucky, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, and South Dakota. And it comes with all sorts of information as well. So you have remote access that is acknowledged. You have more voters than registered that are eligible to vote. So tell me where you have secure elections. And there's much more to go through with this as well. We have all of the proof. But Tina Peters was able, I want to go back to the 3 reports because it ties back to a guy named Matt Crane, which we're going to talk a little bit about that because Ash Epp has been able to do an amazing amount of work. But before I go there, I put up a post this morning. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep. And the reason why I can't sleep is, one, Tina Peters is in jail. So put this up and I'll go ahead and read it to you. It's almost 4 a.m. I could not sleep. Tina Peters still in jail. Jared Polis knows that she is innocent and wants to get a little bit more flesh in before the appeals court rules. This is what Colorado Democrat leaders are. They're heartless, they're evil, they're deceptive, and they are cheating thieves. Polis, Weasel Weiser, Jenna Griswold, all three breaking the law and treating the people like slaves. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. The only ones they will do a solid for are pedophiles, murderers, and the mentally ill. This is what they are: evil, diabolical, synagogue of Satan trash. Free Tina Peters by any and all means necessary, Mr. President. And then I put Tina on it. Now, normally I would put something out like this and 50, 60, 100,000 people would watch it. But I've been having this conversation over the last little bit specifically about the synagogue of Satan and separating Jews from these Jewish people that are just radical leftists. And I've been able to just put out and say, okay, let's look and see whether or not I'm being suppressed again for speaking truth. And the reality of it is I am. And X is probably now become one of the worst. And I talked about what's happening on Rumble and what happens and now Facebook is like the biggest platform for me. So I got 1 million people a week that actually watch the content that I put out on Facebook. How is that possible? Oh, that'll lead down to the other guy, David Beller, the attorney for Eric Coomer, who called up Facebook and said, I want you to take down this post that talks about some of the fraud that exists inside the system. Same persons that actually went out there and said, hey, we want to get a protection order so that we can, stop Mr. Oltmann from speaking. Again, it all comes down to how do we keep Mr. Oltmann from speaking about Eric Coomer, David Beller, and embroiled in one of the biggest corruption cases in Colorado history. Involves tens of millions of dollars in bribes, the governor of the state, the AG, all the way down, all embroiled in this pay-to-play quid pro quo in the state of Colorado that was covered up by Kevin Traskos, who was the DOJ's henchman here in the state of Colorado. All of that happened. All of that happened. The corruption is so deep, and the people involved with it, unbelievable. And I was talking about a guy named Matt Crane, who is the head of the Colorado County Clerks Association in Colorado. This guy has committed crime after crime after crime after crime. Tina Peters had 3 of her charges was for influencing a public official, yet Matt Crane influenced all 64 county clerks and recorders and lied about them while creating his own private meetings with the Secretary of State and locking out the second in charge, who was a part of the Colorado Secretary or the Colorado County Clerks Association. So guess what happened? He resigned. Let's go ahead and put this up. This is Ash Epps' Substack. Colorado's largest county withdrawals from the CCCA membership. This deserves time, and I know we have a guest that's here already, and I just want to say, just bear with me for a minute, because the one thing that I think we have to pay attention to is what is happening in the state of Colorado as it relates to other states. Because remember, this was the home for Dominion voting systems. And even though you had Lendecker that was handed over basically from one crime family to seemingly the next with Liberty Vote, the same substructure, the same processes, the same performance out of the machines all remain the same. By his own admission, Lendecker, when he took over Dominion voting systems, said that, hey, same system, just different name. But here's where it gets kind of dicey. Matt Crane's wife worked for Dominion Voting Systems for almost 20 years. She was best buddies. He was best buddies. Partied with Eric Coomer. And this is the guy that said that he was a Republican. Matt Crane said he's a Republican. Find me a picture of Matt Crane, please. But in the meantime, let me read this to you as they find a picture of that gentleman. We'll call him a gentleman for right now. By the way, this is the same guy that after I came out with the information about Eric Coomer, wanted to meet me for breakfast. I met him for breakfast, and he told me that, yeah, Coomer's a braggadocious guy, and he's got his problems. And I was like, well, and by that time I knew that he was a Satanist. But why would the guy want to meet with me? I'll tell you why, because he later said that I was misinformation, disinformation, and all the things we said about the systems were not true. Now, he doesn't know anything about the systems, but this is the same person that framed Tina Peters. There you go, there's Matt Crane. Now, he was the Arapahoe County clerk and recorder, moved on to be a nonpartisan, connect the dots, good friends with Eric Coomer, the Satanist, drug addict, head of strategy and security for Dominion Voting Systems. There's Matt Crane. So Steve Schlecker, who is the vice president of the Colorado County Clerks Association, and he withdrew El Paso County from active membership in the non-governmental organization. Schlecker was candid about his decisions in an email with the Colorado voter who reached out after noticing a name has been removed from the CCCA leadership list. Now, keep in mind, Matt Crane didn't put that out there. He didn't put it out there for a reason. He knows that they're caught. It's just a matter of time, by the way, until Eric Coomer is arrested. Matt Crane, probably not that far behind, because if there is a RICO case, and I believe there is, and I've been told there is, then 100% the epicenter will be the state of Colorado, and that ripple should take down governors, attorney generals. It should take down multiple people in many states, because if you remember, Eric Coomer is the one that testified in a grand jury in Georgia that led to the indictment of President Trump in Georgia, and he lied under oath, committed perjury there. More of it here. He has done multiple, depositions, did one for me, admitted that he was a part of Antifa, admitted it. Now, in the middle of all that, guy can't tell the truth, but neither can Matt Crane. Matt Crane's covering for someone, so who is he working for? Who is his wife working for in nearly 20 years? Is the CIA actively involved in it, as Patrick Byrne has talked about for the last couple of years? I think it is. But let me talk about Steve really quick, the head of El Paso County. After careful consideration, I made the decision several weeks ago to resign as vice president of the Colorado County Clerks Association and to withdraw El Paso County from active membership. This was not a decision I made lightly. The Schlecker said in the email, the clerk said he believed it's important to be candid when asked directly. He states the reasons for leaving are explosive. Explosive. Matt Crane has been, by the way, the one to state that it's the gold standard, the gold standard, the gold standard. The story continues. At the core, my decision was driven by concerns about independence, transparency, and the role of external influence with whom was intended to be an independent association as an elected officer of the CCCA. I was not permitted to participate in certain executive level meetings with the Secretary of State's office. I was informed this was due to a lack of trust from that office, and participation would be delayed until others were more comfortable. After receiving that information, I reached out directly to the Secretary of State, as well as multiple members of her staff. Each of them shared with me that the conversations had not occurred. That response raised additional concerns for me and led me to believe the situation was developed internally by the CCA president and executive director. By the way, this is Koppel and Matt Crane. Koppel's also one of the people that, let me keep going here. The CCCA, run by Matt Crane, former Arapahoe County clerk, who has been the subject of much controversy since 2020. Crane is the mastermind of the recent CCCA statement demanding Tina Peters remain in prison. He is also the main point of escalation for the clerks on all things election-related. In my opinion, Crane is a lobbyist that has invested and literally vested through marriage in the election industry. With that in mind, it always blows me away that he is a Colorado elected official's first call to handle election-related issues. He's the henchman. Remember what I tell you? You have the crime boss at the top, right? Then you have the captains. Then you have the enforcers. Well, Matt Crane is one of the enforcers. They call him in to be a bully pulpit. Has his conversations with people like Kyle Clark over at 9 News. Make sure that he can call all the radical left rags from one end to the other, whether we're talking about the Western Slope or what we're talking about in the Denver metro area. In the email, Schlecker is ostensibly saying that he believed Crane lied to him about what he was excluded from certain meetings. Yikes. Of course, the public-private partnership in elections ensures plausible deniability, considering that the Colorado Attorney General called Matt Crane to craft the official narrative debunking the findings of Tina Peters' Mesa report back during the investigation into Peters' 2021 actions. This audio was released by, me, In February 2025, ostensibly proving that the investigation of Peters was a sham. That is, the investigator called and explicitly asked an elections industry lobbyist how to debunk the findings in the Mesa report, and in an audio you can hear him typing all of it down. That's how the official narrative debunking the reports came to be. Matt Crane, the same guy allegedly lying to the VP of the CCCA about meetings with the Secretary of State. Schlecker continues, historically there has been differences between us, particularly regarding some of my public comments about our election system. I've always aligned with what I would describe as a more uniform and scripted message, including phrases such as referring to Colorado system as the gold standard. I believe it is important to speak candidly and transparently, even when the perspective differs. More broadly, I have concerns on whether the association is consistently operating in a truly nonpartisan manner. While we are told that it is, our experiences led me to question whether the standard is being upheld in practice. I believe strongly that our work as clerks should be grounded in professionalism, service, and the rule of law, not political alignment. The main point of escalating for Colorado voting issues is politically partisan. Shouldn't that be concerning? One of the main things about Crane, by people relying on the authority of Crane, is that he is a Republican. That means his collaboration with the Colorado Department of State is bipartisan or nonpartisan. Both the Republican clerk has his doubts, and they don't stop at Crane's allegiances. I've also become increasingly frustrated with aspects of the legislative process and the role of associations play within it. In my view, clerks should have a meaningful voice at legislation that carries impacts our operations. When that voice is diminished or when policy appears to be driven by outside interests rather than the collective input of clerks, it raises legitimate concerns about the governance and representation. Ultimately, my decision came down to a matter of principle. I believe leadership requires independence, transparency, and the willingness to stand firm in those values, even when it is uncomfortable. I remain fully committed to serving the citizens of El Paso County with integrity and to ensure our elections and public services are conducted in a professional, transparent, and nonpartisan manner. El Paso County is the second largest in the state. It took courage and conviction from Schlecker. This is huge. It's a developing story, and we'll reach out to both Schlecker and Crane for comment, and I will provide updates on the site when they respond. Take it down. This is... I put up a post saying this is a glaring breaking development that Ash handled very well. We all know that Matt Crane is a very bad man. We also know he is a pariah who lies as easy as he breathes. He has betrayed the people of Colorado, and he has lobbied hard to keep Tina Peters in prison. What organized crime? What we did not know is that a member of the organized crime of Jenna Griswold, Secretary of State of Colorado, he was freezing out while also identifying a county clerk who recognized exactly who Matt Crane was and what he stood for. Good for Steve for resigning. Now we should go for them all. Matt Crane should go to prison. Matt Crane, along with his crime family co-conspirators, should spend the rest of their lives in prison. Great work, Ash. And I say it again, great work to Ash for that. We will be putting out the audio. I'm going to give it to, the full audio, I'm going to give it to Ash and let her continue down going through what has happened here. We know right now that we've got a lot going on with what's happening in Iran. And I believe there's some negotiations that the president has had to make, and while holding his nose. He said something very, very clear earlier today, and that is he was asked whether or not he trusts them, and he says, I trust no one. I trust you even less, because I know you. If I didn't trust you, I'd probably trust you more. What does that tell you about the position that President Trump is in? He knows he is in the swamp. He knows that he is Julius Caesar, and he is surrounded by Brutuses. That's what it tells me. But more importantly, there is this cabal around President Trump and in every state that is basically controlling the outcome of elections everywhere. And the CIA is so far out of control, and the intelligence apparatus is so far entrenched in what we do in every state, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it is a uniparty, that it's hard to see. James Wood put this up here. He said the last cabal of conspirators against the sitting American president were hanged together on a single gallows. The statement was clear. You act together in treason, you shall die together in I can't even read the word. Ignominy. Okay. Pam Bondi says, Pam Bondi, you have a current referral regarding Russiagate. America waits. Go ahead and put the picture up. Let's go up there. Oh, you're not allowed to see it. There they are. Hung for treason. Well, I'm gonna say this. Attorney General Rob Bonta just filed an emergency writ from the Court of Appeals to stop ballots from being counted. This is in California, I believe. Go ahead, put it up, please. Play it.
Hello, California. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco and your next governor. Well. The political corruption in California just gets bigger and bigger. Our embarrassment to law enforcement, Attorney General Rob Bonta, just filed an emergency writ with the Court of Appeals to stop ballots from being counted in Riverside County. For those not aware, we are conducting an investigation into an alleged and potential 45,000 extra votes counted than the number of ballots cast in the November 2025 special election. So we are all clear, this isn't about counting yes and no votes. This is simply counting the total ballots and comparing that total with the number of votes reported by the Dominion machines. Plain and simple, common sense. Not only did a Superior Court judge approve a warrant to obtain the ballots, but also issued a separate order to count them. Why in the world would Rob Bonta want that count stopped unless he was afraid of what that count would uncover? We have an extremely politically biased appeals court, so this is going to be interesting. What's it going to be? Let law enforcement count the ballots as part of a lawful investigation, or halt the investigation and sweep it under the rug? All California voters should be demanding transparency, not legal maneuvers and cover-ups. Stay tuned.
So let me put this in perspective for you. The election systems in all 50 states are fraudulent. You can not like me. I don't actually care what you think. He said the Dominion machines, they have more ballots than they said. They have 45,000 more votes than they had ballots. How did that happen? Well, I'm going to tell you how it happened. The entire system is fraudulent. Throw out the machines, throw out the mail-in ballots, get the in-person paper ballot. Make sure you have to have an ID. Get rid of all the illegals. Make sure that we got to a place where we can actually have sensibility and we get rid of the ridiculous and stop negotiating with it. We shouldn't be negotiating with the ridiculous. We should, if you don't know what a woman is, you know what? You probably should stay home, or maybe you should go work on the assembly line or go pick vegetables, right? Because you really don't have, that just shows me how stupid you are. But if we're going to talk about the election systems and making sure the voice of the American people is heard and getting back to a norm when it comes to education and some of the other things that we deal with, it's going to require bold moves. And those bold moves are, let's stop pretending that these people aren't trying to steal our voice and enslave us as people. Well, we have a guest that we're going to have a conversation with. His name is Matt Cubbler. He's a retired 30-year law enforcement officer, former active duty U.S. Army Intelligence Analyst who deployed during the Persian Gulf War. And he's a former U.S. Federal Air Marshal who served shortly after 9/11. He's been a lifelong servant, and he's dedicated his career to protecting others, whether we're talking about his military service or his police work in Pennsylvania. Whew. He's been inspired by the tragic loss of his older brother, Andy, who died in a violent car accident just 1 month after Matt graduated from high school. He chose to enlist in the Army instead of attending military academy so he could serve and help others. In 2009, when he was a police officer, he co-founded Max Out, now part of the E-Force Strength, the revolutionary patent strength training system and gym concept. We're going to have to talk about this. Today, Matt is sought-after public speaker, author of a memoir, A Brother's Love, a podcast host, and a passionate youth mentor, all driven by the memory of his brother, Andy. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe. Thank you.
You know, we're just talking about everything having to do with election fraud and basically the country being going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah, I kind of caught that.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, it's your first time you've been on with me.
Yeah, it's I'm 50, almost 55, retired police officer. Retired in 2023, and I've spent most of my life serving in some capacity, whether it's in the military when I was in active duty in the intel industry there, and in the Army, and then 30 years as a police officer. So it's been a long time of public service, and I don't regret it. I think I made a mark during that period of time. But now I'm trying to not be in the middle of things, but I seem to be in the middle of things now.
But every time, look, if you're smart right now, the only place you could be is in the middle of things because you're drawn to and allergic to the stupid. And so people that are allergic to stupid find themselves having to get involved over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it's did I get there we go. I was in the rabbit holes you were talking about for quite a while, back in the 2015, 16, all the way through the election in 2020. But in 2019, I kind of got diverted to a little bit something that was a little more personal, a little bit more important, something I felt I actually had a hand in, potentially could have a hand in solving, and that was the murder of a high school classmate of mine.
Job
Who was
Price.
commander of SEAL, Joe Price. Yeah, he was commander of SEAL Team 4.
Okay. That was,
it was ruled a suicide.
It was ruled a suicide, and you came out a couple of years ago talking about that you have evidence that it was murder.
Yeah, well, I mean, it took a while. It was, I tell this story often. I was supposed to interview his sister on a podcast that I had, and that turned into a meeting with her father and her, and them handing me Job's death book that they had from NCIS, and asked if I would take a look at it because they didn't feel it was right. Whatever their ruling was for suicide and the reason they were declaring it suicide just didn't sit well with the family. And this is now 7 years after he died. So it was already a cold case at that point. I reviewed all the evidence that they had, which was a very incomplete picture of what happened. But based on that book of evidence, I couldn't rule suicide. Like, I couldn't, as an investigator, trained law enforcement officer, I couldn't get to the suicide conclusion that NCIS got to, and that kind of got me hooked in.
So NCIS, just those that don't know if they haven't seen the show, it's supposed to be the creme de la creme, right? Of the it's supposed to be. We know that what's on TV is not actually what really happens, but you got evidence, and that evidence was a breakthrough in the case. What did they get wrong? Like, you said it was incomplete. They didn't have a lot of information, but what did they get? Let's start there. Like, first of all, what happened in Job's case? Suicide, meaning he hung himself, he shot himself. Walk through the details for those people that don't know these details.
Absolutely. He was found in the morning of the 22nd of December in 2012 in his bunk with a single gunshot wound to the head, laying in his bunk with the gun across his chest and still in his hand. He was shot on his left side from right to left.
Wait a minute. So he shot himself, and then the gun fell here?
Somehow, yeah.
Okay, so that's not true. That didn't happen.
No,
nobody
it did not.
ever.
So now there are occasions where people are still holding the firearm, but those are very rare, and specific things had to happen in that type of a shooting for that muscle tension to maintain even after death. That did not happen in Job's case. Job's hand was limp, but yet still holding a gun. There was no rigor mortis in it. There was no tension.
Hold on a second. I need to back up for a minute. But the gun was on his chest in his hand, still held.
Correct. With his finger still on the trigger.
Okay, and he shot himself like this.
On right, yep, laying on his left side.
Okay, so he shot himself on his right side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you said he was laying on his left.
Yep.
So then the gun fell this way?
Supposedly. There isn't a way that I could understand how I mechanically got a SIG 226 9mm. It was a direct contact wound to the head.
FMJ or no?
Ball, yeah, it was ball ammo.
Okay.
And the realities is that, when I look at this, my first look at it,
if he was going to commit suicide, and he wouldn't shoot himself with a ball round.
And he wouldn't do it in the nude, and he wouldn't do it in a sleeping bag, and he wouldn't do it in the middle of the night, and he wouldn't do it in a room where everyone would hear it if he did it, because no one heard a gunshot.
Hold on a second. Nobody heard a gunshot?
Yeah. No.
Okay. I mean, this just sounds like a shit NCIS Like I could pick this
It's like
apart myself, just being a gun guy. But okay,
it's a bad B movie, for sure. And I will lead with NCIS is woefully inept as an investigative agency across the board.
yeah.
I've never met anyone who's been involved in NCIS investigations that said they did a crack job. With that being
I've
said, I
watched it
think
on TV, and they've solved every case on TV.
they have in 1 hour. It's amazing how great they are depicted.
I don't mean to make light of the case, but I mean it is kind of, people think that that's how things happen. 1 hour.
Yeah, no. So it gets only worse from this point forward. So he was found at around 9:30 in the morning by his command master chief, who's the senior enlisted guy on the team. He assembled the leadership staff and the JAG officer on duty and the NCIS agent who was there. And they all went into the room, declared he was dead. And the room was locked by NCIS, and the key was given to the command master chief. And the NCIS agent left with the instructions of do not go in this room or disturb anything.
With Job.
And 9 hours later, Job's still in there. 9 hours later, they came back.
Rigor mortis set in.
Everything. Well, I mean, just from let's start with the fact that a crime scene was left unattended by a suspect in a potential murder, right? So when you give the key to somebody and you have a dead body with a gun, you have to work it as a homicide until it's not a homicide.
Right.
Right. You don't start at suicide and trip into a homicide. You have to stop. You have to start at the homicide. So they gave the key to a potential suspect and a group of suspects that need to be questioned, need to be interviewed and interrogated. That at this point in time, now anything in that crime scene is now tainted. It's impossible to use any evidence collected from that crime scene in any court of law. There would not be any way that you could collect evidence and then admit that as evidence and have it be accepted as properly obtained. So, with that being said, anything in that room could have been tainted or changed or destroyed or added or removed during those 9 hours.
Is this a sleeping quarters?
Yes. Well, it's called a green mile. They have the operations and command staff area is there. It's manned 24 hours a day. And then they have a wing that is the bunk area for the command staff.
Where's the camera?
Joe, there is no camera inside.
There's a camera outside the room, right?
No, so apparently there's no cameras on these fobs, according to everything that's been reported to me. So it's been a brutal realization. This is 2012. We're not talking 1993. Technology.
But they have cameras. They have cameras on base, right? I mean, outside they'd have cameras outside the bunk room.
According to all sources, there were no cameras in that building or outside of that building. I don't know. It's a forward operating base. I was never in the GWAT era in the military, so I don't know the ins and outs of a forward operating base. But I can tell you, for me, that's problematic. But I also know that there are special operations and things can get hanky in special operations. Okay. And sometimes you don't want cameras involved in that process. But I digress. So when they came back and they started processing the crime scene, it was woefully done. So let me back up. In that death book was a lot of statements and photos and reports and things of that nature, but missing from it were gunshot residue testing, ballistics testing on the firearm and the bullet and the casing, DNA testing, trace evidence testing. There was no evidence analysis done that was in that book. So I was working from a place of unknown on a lot of things. And I told this to a reporter once. It was like they gave me a 1,000-piece puzzle set, and on the outside of the puzzle was the picture that Job committed suicide, and inside were 250 pieces that they were trying to then convince me looked like the outside of that box, and I couldn't get there because I'm missing a bunch of pieces. So I continued to
Now,
work.
were you missing the pieces because they didn't exist, or were you missing the pieces because it wasn't included in the final report?
It wasn't included in what they gave the family. So I had to spend a lot of time doing FOIAs, getting bounced around to, the wrong agency, wrong person. It took forever. I didn't get the actual ballistics, DNA, and GSR reports until November of 2024. And so 5 years it took.
Wait, hold on a second. He died in 2012.
I started in 2019.
You started in 2019, 7 years later. It's colder than ice. I mean, it's basically prehistoric time, right? You get involved in this, and it took an additional 5 years to get access to the GSR reports and I assume there was toxicology reports and other things as well.
Well, the toxicology was there. That was in the autopsy report. The autopsy report was woefully under, like there wasn't a lot of information in it. And I would argue that was probably by design. But I'll go back to the crime scene.
Okay.
So when they collected the evidence, they bagged Job's hands like they normally would in any crime scene investigation. If you have a victim of something, you want to bag the hands to make sure you maintain continuity on whatever might be under the fingernails or whatever.
Hours later, but okay.
Right. They found a casing underneath his lower back from the round. They found the bullet under the upper left corner. If you're standing at the foot of the bed, the upper left-hand corner of the bed, in the only open space under his bed that didn't have a Pelican box under it, was this small, probably 12-inch by 12-inch corner where blood had pooled, and the bullet was placed in the blood. And they collected those pieces of evidence and noted it in the investigation.
Wait, hold on. You have to back up for me, because if I'm having trouble following this, and then the people listening are having trouble following this. Okay, so he shot himself. The casing shot up. The casing can go anywhere. So it ended up behind him.
On his lower back. And
then he came back on top of it, and then his hand landed up here.
Yes, the gun went downward at a 45-degree angle, ricocheted a bunch of times apparently, and went to the only place underneath his bed that didn't have a Pelican box. Somehow it got back there. They've never been able to determine exactly how it got back there, but that's where the bullet was found.
I mean, did they run the thing through? Because a ball round there's no telling where a ball round's going to go, right?
Yeah, there was no, they found like a nick here and a nick there, but there was, based on what they thought was ricochet marks from the bullet. But how it got back to that back corner, there's no direct path line for it, and there's no markings on the Pelican box or a wall that was generally near that corner that would lead you to that place, as far as the path that bullet took after it went through his head. The body was released. Photos were taken. Some photos were destroyed from a disc that they said got destroyed, and there was no second copy of it, which would have been the wall behind him, which is where the blood spatter would have went, and it would have shown, definitively the blowback from the gunshot wound on the wall with blood.
So you didn't have any of these pictures? You had no crime scene photos?
I had crime scene photos, just the ones that would have been behind him were destroyed due to a damaged disc. And they said there was no additional copies of those photos. So I had every other photo but that.
So normally what they do is they'll make a copy of those photos that'll go into a hard guard. So those weren't done either?
Apparently no.
Okay.
They then released the body.
The fact that I know about this stuff is probably weird for you, but it's not weird for me. I read a lot of books. I read a lot.
They released the body to the medical people. The command master chief, the guy that had the key for 9 hours, was told that no one is to touch the body once it's been released to the medical people. He made mention that he wanted to give Job a dignified send-off, and they would want to clean up his wound and dress it. And he was told not to do that by the NCIS agent in charge, and the medical people came and collected the body. The NCIS agents forgot to put the bedding in the body bag with Job, because they needed that as far as the evidentiary process. And when they walked into the medical tent, Job was, the bags were off of his hands and his whole body was being washed by the medical people at the direction of the Navy SEALs. His hands were scrubbed. Everything was washed head to toe.
So hold on. So you had no GSR report? Or
I had a GSR report, but the only GSR that they tested was on the sheet underneath his head and the wooden plank between his mattress and the bunk itself.
What about his hands?
No, there was apparently no tests were done on his hands. So there's no proof that he ever fired a gun.
But why would you not do that? Why would you not? Okay, you're getting to it. You're getting to it. Keep going.
I can only tell you what the report said.
Yeah.
The report said that the only two things that were tested were those two things. In the report that the NCIS agent made in his notes, he says he swabbed his hands for GSR. Now, I don't know what happened to that swab, but that swab never made it to the analysis part. And then what would have been done at the ME's office is they would have redone all of that themselves. So the hands would have been unbagged. They would have been swabbed for GSR. They would have had underneath the fingernail scraped, and anything and everything that they could have possibly tested for in his hands, they would have tried. But because they washed the body and then rebagged his hands, by the way, because it's important to rebag the evidence that's not present anymore on someone's hands after you destroy it. And then dressed him in his watch cap and uniform and bandaged up his head wound. And that's how we left to go to Dover from Afghanistan. It needs to be noted that the bullet, the gun, Job's gun was an unsuppressed .226, 9mm. The bullet, the casing, and the gun all matched.
Okay, so somebody just said this. This happened in Afghanistan?
Yes.
Okay.
He was the commander of SEAL Team 4 deployed in country. And we'll talk about the shenanigans that were going on. But the realities is that there was a lot of ineptitude throughout the process, yes. A lot of criminality throughout the process that no one was ever held accountable for, destruction of evidence, disobeying lawful orders, a litany of things that they could be brought up on charges for. No one ever was. And then finally, the realities is that what they say happened didn't happen. And I can get into how I was able to obtain all these forensic experts to come forward, but in 2024, I had several forensic experts, world-renowned, heard me on a podcast, reach out to me and ask if they could review the evidence. I allowed them to review the evidence, and each one of them came back with the exact same finding that he was murdered. And I'm sure you said you read a lot of murder mystery books.
No, I read factual books. I don't read. I'm not a big nonfiction guy. I mean, a fiction guy. I'm not a big fiction guy. But I read a lot of nonfiction books about stuff like this.
So you know, blood when it finds its way out of the body will flow in the direction of gravity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're laying on your left side and you roll into your back, the only place that blood would come out from is the direction where gravity is pulling it from. So there should only be one dried blood pattern.
Yeah.
There were 3 directional blood patterns on his head, 3 different flows of blood, which means his body was moved 2 other times.
Or he didn't die from the gunshot, which is how.
Well, he died from the gunshot. It was definitely a fatal wound.
No, but what I'm saying is he didn't die immediately from it. The only way that would happen.
Oh no, it was 100% immediate, lights out. He was moved by his guys when they were staging the scene. Multiple times, 2 times actually.
And then, this is in 2012. If those of you that don't know, you had the September 11th, the 9/11 of 2012, which was Benghazi. This was roughly 2 months later. His death happened in December 22nd of 2012.
Yes. 2011 to 2013 was like the ultimate 2 years of special operations fuck ups.
Yeah. A lot of people died.
It was just horrible. And I've been down, as part of my investigation into Job, I was brought into other events in order to satisfy some people that have been feeding me information. They wanted me to go public, be the face of the person, the person that talks about these things and brings awareness. So whether it was Rob O'Neill, who I interviewed for 3 different occasions, I was given information about that raid that wasn't available publicly to anybody. And I confronted him on that and caught him off guard. And, I heard I don't know if you've been paying attention to Rob O'Neill lately, but he's suing the Anti-Hero podcast guys for $25 million each for defamation. And he's come out with a counter narrative to the events on the Bin Laden raid, where he's saying that the after-action report, the recorded after-action report that I heard, where he did not admit to killing Osama bin Laden, that was the cover-up, that they colluded, SEAL Team 6 colluded with one another to lie about what happened in order to protect individuals on that raid. And that the truth is he actually killed bin Laden as he says he did. And again, I don't know the truth because I wasn't there. I can just tell you what I was told from multiple sources and from what he said on that after-action recording. And he never admitted to killing Osama bin Laden. But anyways, I was able to utilize that, and I thank Rob for this. And I respect Rob O'Neill. I told him, I said, if he did 400 missions, 399 of them, he was a stud. And I thank him for his patriotism and heroism. But on this one, I don't buy it. And I was able to utilize my interviews with him to turn them into viral reels in order to get people to listen to podcasts that Job's case was being explained upon. And so it increased the number of eyes and ears that were hearing about Job exponentially. And I did that with Sean Ryan and Jocko Willink and Mark Luttrell and several others. And it just kept increasing the number of people that were paying attention to what happened to Job, that otherwise wouldn't care about what happened to Job. And that's what brought in the forensic experts, and they're the one that exposure is what opened up that doorway to get these forensic experts come forward, which is how I broke the case.
Okay, so what happened after you broke the case? And again, I was skeptical when I started looking through the stuff, and as you're sitting here talking, I'm a little less skeptical because nobody wants their friend to die of suicide, right? It's not something you want to believe. And then,
we weren't friends. We were classmates. I didn't have one interaction with him out of school. He was a guy that I respected. He was an intelligent, really nice kid, athlete. He was the benchmark for the rest of us in the academic track to reach. Okay. So that I will say, but I didn't have an emotional connection to this one way or the other. And I still don't. I have an emotional connection to the outcome because of the amount of time I've put in on my own, volunteering all my time. I have skin in the game that way, but I don't have an emotional connection to the outcome. And because I don't have an emotional connection to his death. But I have a professional desire to win. And I want to be right. But most importantly, I made a promise to his dad that I would see it to the end. And his dad died 2 years ago from cancer, and right before the case broke, actually. But to answer your question, once I knew I'm not a forensics guy. I knew what didn't look right. I knew what was wrong. I understood why it was odd to me or didn't seem right. But I didn't have any scientific data to back that up until I had these forensic experts come back and say the gun was placed in his hand post-mortem, that the casing could have only been found under his body if he was standing when he was shot, which he wasn't. That means the casing was placed under there. His body was moved 2 additional times.
Well, if he was laying on his right side, I mean, look, there's no telling. I mean, I will tell you this: there's no telling where that casing could have gone. I mean, it could have hit anywhere, especially on his right hand. It's going to go up, right? Because I'm left-handed, so I'm always worried about stuff hitting me in the face when I'm shooting. So it's right-handed, right? It shoots up. It could. I mean, depending on whether it was in a bunk and there was a bunk above it, or I mean, I don't know any of that information.
Yeah. So, go ahead. Sorry about that.
And then a 226, man, it can fly out in 50 different directions. So
it's just a time in the air equation. So it's not a where can it go. It's a matter of how long would it take for you to go from your left side to your back after being shot in the head and all the lights go out. And there is apparently a forensic formula to that that would preclude the casing from ending up under his body. And again, I don't have that knowledge, but I will take the multiple independent forensic experts who don't know each other exist, who came to the same outcome.
I say this about the elections. One anomaly, okay, right? There's a 1 in a billion chance. 2 anomalies, 1 in a trillion chance. 3 anomalies, 1 in a quadrillion chance. Once you get to 2 or 3 different anomalies of things, that's when you know that you've broken something open.
Yeah, and all the earlier stuff, the 9 hours of the crime scene being left unattended, his body could have been moved, which it was. The things could be taken out or added in. The fact that nobody heard a shot, and then the final piece of this puzzle that answered that question, especially the not hearing a shot. It's a concrete metal building. You fart, the guy down at the end of the hall knows you farted. There isn't a way to hide a 9mm cracking off in the middle of the night without somebody knowing it, especially since there was people awake in that building the whole night. In his autopsy photo, there was a semicircle entry at the entry point, stippling mark, that was the same diameter as a suppressor, the front face of a suppressor. And that would be the answer to the why nobody heard a gunshot. But one person did say they heard what sounded like a pallet being dropped from a forklift, kind of like a clapping sound, which is kind of what it would sound like if
you had just the action.
Yeah. And Job's gun was not a suppressed weapon. So, and there was never when I read the analysis of the bullet and the casing and the gun on the ballistics and the DNA on it, they didn't test anything for skin, hair, bone fragment, brain matter, nothing. They didn't test the barrel, they didn't test the gun, they didn't test the bullet for any of those types of trace evidence, which would be very prevalent on both the gun and the bullet. They never tested latent prints on the casing. None of that was ever done. So there is zero evidence. And when you take a step back from this from an investigator perspective and just look at this and go, okay, let's make columns. The left side is he committed suicide. Right side is he was killed. And you make your points as to which one it is. There's zero evidence. And I say evidence because it has to be proven. You have to be able to take something and say, I can directly connect this to that crime. There's zero evidence that he committed suicide. There is 50 things that I have that prove he was murdered. Individually, some will do that automatically by themselves, and then collectively they do even more. The only thing that anyone ever said, and the NCIS even came back when I requested they reopen the case, they said no and said that we did a forensic analysis of the investigation and find the outcome to be correct one. And they said they believe because he was depressed, and this is their version, that's what caused him to kill himself. And I don't know about you. I've had depression before. I'm very much alive. There isn't a direct link between depression and suicide. It is a ancillary reason when you're piecing together why somebody would commit suicide. Depression could be a contributing factor, but it is not a piece of evidence that you would go into court and say he was sad, so therefore he's dead. That doesn't exist. Not in any real courtroom. Maybe kangaroo courts in the Navy, but not in real courtrooms. So I'll explain to you. We're going back to the original question: what happened after I broke the case? Before I broke the case, I had a friend of mine introduce me to Pete Hegseth when he was still at Fox, and I gave him everything I had at the time, which did not include the forensic reports and from the experts. It didn't include the GSR, the DNA, or any of that type of evidence that had been waiting on. But what he reviewed was everything I had to date. And I have text messages from him that I released publicly last week on the Redacted News podcast. Him saying that there's absolutely no way that's suicide, and 100% that a suppressor was used to kill him. And he was going to help me get exposure in this, and then some SEALs got to him, and he ghosted me. In April of 23 was the last time I heard from him. And I've spent the last 2.5 years trying to get him to respond to me, to give me the time to ask him to do the right thing. And if you believed it then, and now I have all this new evidence, it would clearly show you that his analysis back in 2023 was correct. He's now the Secretary of War, and he's in the greatest position he could possibly in to affect change. Additionally, Job's dad was a teacher at a very prestigious all-boys school outside of Philadelphia, which is where I'm originally from. And both of the Trump boys, Eric and Don Jr., went there and were taught by Job's father. Don was coached by him in lacrosse. Harry, Job's dad, had communicated for a bit with Don Jr. about Job's death. And I have a letter and some emails that showed Don Jr. promising Harry that if his dad got elected in 2016, that he would ensure that it was taken care of, that he would look into it and get it fixed. And then after Trump got elected in 2016, crickets. He ghosted Harry, which was very disappointing to hear. I voted for Trump all 3 times. On policy, I'd vote for him again. But just like with Rob O'Neill, if he did 400 missions, 399 of them, I'm proud of him. I'm not proud of Trump on this one, and I'm not proud of Hegseth on this one. And they could have easily fixed it.
Did you have any conversations with any of his SEAL team brothers?
Oh yeah, the ones that would talk. Most of them, they close ranks pretty well.
So
nobody that was there will have a conversation with me without the only answer being he was depressed. But then I've spoken to multiple people who said they didn't notice anything wrong with him. And all of them, not one of them said that they think he was suicidal. He had a lot of things going on while he was over there. There was, from the time he took over for SEAL Team 2, which had a detainee be killed by Navy SEALs, and Job was there in June of 2012 before they actually came and relieved them in September. Job was there doing like a pre-deployment, get to know all the bigwigs in the Afghan world with the commander of SEAL Team 2, and this event happens where an Afghani was brought in for questioning. The SEALs tortured him, and then they released him, and then a short while later he died. And retribution was called by the Afghan tribe, Taliban guys, against the Navy SEALs. And then Job's team came in September officially and relieved SEAL Team 2. And there was 2 PSYOP guys, Army PSYOP guys, were killed by an Afghan national police officer, I believe, not local, I think it was national, on the FOB. And then 2 SEALs in November were killed, one in an ambush, which we believe was the retribution from what happened in SEAL Team 2, and another one on another mission. Job also found out that $40,000 from ASOT money, which is the CIA slush fund money that these special operations units have to pay off mullahs and grease the wheels of justice or progress. $40,000 was unaccounted for.
All right, so let me do some other math for you. They said he killed himself with his service weapon, correct?
Say that again?
That he killed himself with a service weapon?
With his service weapon, correct.
Okay. And he is on an FOB, which means it's if he has that service weapon, it's going to be combat ready, correct?
You would think, yeah.
So there wouldn't be a ball round in that gun. There would be defense rounds in that weapon.
No, they were issued ball ammunition.
They were issued ball ammo.
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah. It's again, I don't know the reasons for or against. I know what I would prefer, but I don't know why the Navy chose that as the ammunition to use, other than it was probably bought in bulk.
Cheaper. Yeah. Well, I mean, the same rule applies there, right? I mean, a ball round can go through 3 houses before it stops.
I don't think they care. I don't think that's part of the equation.
Unless you have people on 2 sides shooting through houses.
Yeah.
I mean, it's typical. I mean, you just want to maybe, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I'll give you, I'll double down on that. When I was in the Federal Air Marshal Service, first year we had frangible ammunition because they were worried about over-penetration inside the aircraft.
Yeah.
And then after the first year, they issued us hollow points. And I said, why are we going with hollow points? And they're like, because they're 36 cents a round cheaper. And our training went from shooting every month to once every 6 months. And we were told, don't miss. Yeah. So
That's
the government.
Not to miss. Geez, one bullet hole can turn into a big cavern.
Yeah.
In an airplane.
So with Job's case, I held on to the Hegseth information because I really had faith that he would come through and do the right thing. And I really did hope that when Trump, if he got elected again, that he would do the right thing. I know that Charlie Strange, whose son was on Extortion 17, he was the crypt analyst for SEAL Team 6.
Yeah.
His son was killed, and he had talked to Trump during one of his campaign stops in Philadelphia and said, will you look into the deaths of those on Extortion 17 and every other questionable circumstance? And Trump said, absolutely. My first week, I'll set up a task force to address that. Well, that's never been done. And I got to the point now where I've reached my personal limit on what I'm willing to wait on. And I knew that, conservative media, whether it be Fox or Newsmax or anyone else, isn't going to publicly go after the Secretary of War or the President of the United States. So I had to go alternative methods. And so I went on redacted.
Where do you live? Which area do you live currently?
I'm in Midwest.
Okay. So Midwest meaning like Indiana, or Midwest meaning like?
Missouri.
Okay.
And
have you thought about getting on an airplane and going to D.C. and basically sitting down in the chair outside of Hegseth's office?
I have no, because he knows, first of all, he knows me very well. Secondly, I have his cell phone, email, and everything, and he's refusing to talk to me. So I'm not going to put myself out any farther than I need to. Now, I do have people that are in the close to him in the administration who have spoken to him on my behalf.
Okay.
I have confirmation of that. So this isn't something he's unaware of or forgot about or anything. This is very much front of mind, and I'm done being ignored and waiting. So I have there's an article coming out in the Washington Post about it. Again, I went on redacted, which I'm sure this will happen with yours too. It's been heavily suppressed.
Yeah, I mean, look,
heavily suppressed.
I get suppressed across every platform. Mm-hmm. I have to be on 20 different platforms in order to reach a couple 100,000 people an episode, right? So I'm constantly having to move
Right.
downstream and play whack-a-mole. And people are like, oh, I can't get on, I can't watch it here, I can't watch it here, I can't watch it here. You know, this story reminds me of Eddie Gallagher. Remember Eddie?
No, I know Eddie well.
So it just, you know, he was set up, and remember, it was the clown down in Texas, eye patch boy, that went against him. Crenshaw, yeah. Went against Eddie and basically stopped any progress from Eddie getting justice. And this went on for years.
I don't share the same views on Eddie as you. I've been deep into this rabbit hole with the SEALs, and in speaking with many SEALs. You know, Eddie is. We've spoken. We've had our beef, and you know, I don't investigate Eddie. I don't care about Eddie. He's not part of my investigation or interest level.
Yeah.
But I can tell you things that I've heard is that, well, whatever the truth is on what happened to that, we'll call him a mid-teen level ISIS fighter. Regardless of that, there are other things that have happened in his career that are just as disturbing that I've been told about. And now, again, I wasn't there. That's just what I've been told. But I can tell you there is a pattern throughout the SEAL community of corruption, of blackmail, of drug trafficking, of drug use, of killing their own people, killing other soldiers. There was a case with a guy named Melgar, Staff Sergeant Melgar. He was an Army Special Forces guy in Mali who was killed by 2 SEAL Team 6 guys and 2 Marine Corps Raiders. And ultimately, they all walked away. But I know they were trying.
I've had multiple. I have lots of friends that are SF guys. Lots of friends that I know that are in this world. I've volunteered, given money, done everything from American Military Family to the Special Forces Foundation. I know that there's always a story behind it, and that there's no unclean hands. What I'm saying is that standing in the way of progress and getting to the bottom of these cases, especially the one you have with Job, it's like watching paint dry. You can't seem to get to the place where you can get to the truth. It's like the truth is this ambiguous thing that's running away from you, and frankly, it's just sitting in the same spot.
I mean, I'm at the place now where the truth is very, very clear to anybody. I just don't have a venue to show anybody.
Okay,
because the Navy refuses to open up the case.
He was murdered. Let's just get to the place.
100%, he was murdered.
Okay, so he was murdered. Now it gets
by his own guys.
By who?
His own guys.
You think his own guys inside of his own unit killed him?
150,000%.
You think it was tied to the CIA because you just talked about having a suppressed gun?
I believe it was tied to a collective.
Nobody kills anyone over 40 grand, by the way. Not in that world. I can't imagine it.
Well, it depends what that 40 grand was doing. And whether or not it was tied to a larger puzzle. You know, we all know what was going on in Afghanistan at that time.
Poppy.
You know, poppy seeds, right?
Yeah.
So everybody was growing poppy. And I have dozens of statements from guys talking about how they weren't allowed to go after anybody. They would hide, Al-Qaeda would hide the Taliban would hide in the poppy farms, and the CIA wouldn't let anybody go deal with it because they needed that poppy grown and cultivated and sold.
And just so you know, I mean, if those of you that don't know what came out of Afghanistan during the withdrawal in Afghanistan is that 98% of the poppy production in the country of Afghanistan ceased to exist. It's at 2% of what it was pre the handover. So that just goes to show you that the CIA had a huge involvement in what was going on over there in the poppy production.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, it was I think 95% of the world's heroin was coming out of Afghanistan. And listen, it's not the first time our government's used drugs as their back. What's actually going on behind the scenes of a war is actually a drug trade. So Here's what I believe about Job. And again, the NCIS and the Navy SEALs did a great job of destroying any physical evidence to prove who could have done it. There is a small group of his SEALs who are suspects. I'm confident, based on just the proximity and who had access, that the Command Master Chief knows something. Won't talk to me. He's aware of what happened. I know that the guy that stole the $40,000 wasn't his first rodeo with corrupt acts.
Well, you
I
still
know
have to
that
have
Job
special operators. You'd still have to have CIA or intelligence operators that had to have had more knowledge of this than even people on his team. And sooner or later, by the way, someone on his team is going to crack. They just will.
Yeah, probably not until after it's all said and done. I think there's going to be, here's what the family's goal is. My promise to the family was that I would prove that their son, brother, husband, father did not commit suicide. I did that. Their goal is to have the manner of death changed from suicide to homicide. And they're not looking for a pound of flesh. They're not trying to put someone on trial for his murder. They just want the manner of death changed because he was 6 months from his pension and his wife never got his pension because of the suicide.
What do you mean she never got his pension?
He got to do 20 years
Yeah,
to get a pension.
But he still died. He just still died in a.
Suicide negates that.
I don't. Okay.
Hard to believe, but true. And then there was $1 million life insurance policy that was also negated because he supposedly committed suicide within the first year of it. And so therefore she didn't receive that either. And, I don't have skin in this game emotionally. I have skin in this game based on my time and energy and efforts. And if the family just wants the manner of death changed, I will stop.
I don't think you could say that in good conscience that you don't have an emotional attachment to it, because any person that uncovers the fact that somebody murdered a brother, you were in the military, then there's an emotional attachment. There has to be an emotional attachment to it. All right, it pisses you off.
Well,
if anything, it's pissed you off.
Well, no, I'm disappointed in the fact that this is what our country has turned into. That this is possible. That this is how the world in our military, the brotherhood's supposed to work. It's not like this.
Well, the problem is the brotherhood doesn't last. The brotherhood doesn't last after you get out anyway. And look what they do to veterans.
I live next door to my best friend from the Army. So I'm living proof that that's true. That you can have a relationship post. And I have plenty of friends that I'm from a different era. I was in the Army in '89, and I don't know, the GWAT era, and I have some empathy for the GWAT era special operators and guys that were deployed multiple times who have come back broken.
Yeah.
You send, especially SEALs and special forces and Delta guys, if you send them into harm's way and ask them to do animalistic things over and over again, they're going to turn into animalistic people. Outside of their military service, their tendencies are going to lean there, and I believe that. And it doesn't change the fact that Job was murdered and something needs to be done for that. But I also understand that our government created the environment for all of these things: the drug trafficking, the drug use. Just talked to a guy yesterday who was with SEAL Team 2 as a not a member of SEAL Team 2, but there as a support guy, who said they were high every day and didn't know what they were high on, but I can make some guesses. That drugs are running rampant. I know that there is drugs running rampant back in the States within the SEAL community. I know that murder has happened multiple times. And again, I'm not investigating any of that. The only time I get interested in other things is if it leads me to a way to get exposure for Job or leads me back to Job. and I've exhausted all of those routes to get to this point. Going public with the Hegseth stuff and the Trump stuff, this is my final card to play. I believe when the Washington Post story comes out, that's going to be the thing that starts the forest fire. That's going to be the ignition, because again, I'm a Trump guy. Policy-wise, I'm a Trump guy. I'm a America first, constitutional conservative, borderline libertarian. But I also believe in truth and justice. And I'll dance with the devil if I got to dance with the devil to get to there.
I agree with you. I think we have to dance with the devil. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I mean, if you send me some information that I have, I mean, if there's a place where I can get access to this stuff and kind of look at it, I do have several friends that may be able to help in the, I mean, you probably have some too, but I have some. I have lots that might be able to help, especially in the special forces community. I have a friend his name is Ed. He's an attorney, but he was a special forces guy too, or excuse me, a SEAL too. I arm wrestled him a couple of years ago and beat him. But I can help. I mean, I can help with what I can help with. So
I appreciate that. I will. I'll talk to whoever you want me to talk to and coordinate releasing whatever. Listen, everything I have is public. There isn't anything. I have a couple things that I hold on to that, my dead man switches, so to speak. But everything else I've publicized already. Every crime scene photo you can add, every autopsy photo, every report.
Well, a lot of people will see this. A lot of people will see this show, so there's no telling, who's going to see it and what will come out of it. But if I have to push some buttons and help you out on my side, I will as well.
I appreciate it. My goal it's simple. It's really not that hard. Let's change the manner of death. And that off ramp can be taken anytime, and then I disappear. I'll sign NDAs. I don't give a shit. My job's done. And I'm very confident in, and I don't want. And let's be real clear. I don't want them to take my word for it, that I'm 100% right and everything I'm saying is 100% true. What I'm saying is, if you are an investigative agency and you step back and you look at what happened with this investigation, on its own merit, you can't give credence to the suicide solution, the final verdict of suicide, because of all of the fuck ups that occurred. I'm saying just on that alone, it should be reopened. But when you add in all of the new evidence that I've uncovered, now we need to look at this from a different perspective. Not just Job was dead from suicide, but maybe he was murdered, and have their own forensic analysis look at it. Have all of their own people, hire whoever they want. I don't give a fuck. Just do it.
I think
so that the truth can be found.
And Job's a father and a husband. And
yes.
So I mean, there's more to this. I mean, the kids, they deserve to know that the legacy of their father was not soiled by a suicide, right? And the government should do the right thing,
for sure.
Frankly. And I'll just say this right now, Pete. Hegseth should do the right thing. And if the right thing right now is, okay, the ship has sailed, 14 years has gone by. I have guys that are in here that have been wronged by the system, and it took years to get that wronged undone. They should do the right thing. I mean, this is a flip of the switch. It's a rounding error for buying a pallet of sodas, as far as they're concerned. So I agree with you. So anything I can do to help you, I certainly will do that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the opportunity to come on and share the story.
Matt, thank you for taking the time and putting the thousands of hours into this. And the team will get a hold of you, and I'll just rattle some cages and see what I can come up with.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
All right, thanks, brother. Whew. That's a tough one. I mean, it's there's some, a whistleblower is not treated well, and most people know that. It doesn't matter where you are, but somebody knows something about this deal over that was there in Afghanistan. You know, two things. One, yeah, you're not going to fire a gun in an FOB and not hear it. It's just not going to happen. And I don't know about the rest of it. I need to really look at it and read all the documents myself. But the other side is that why? Why not look into it? Why wait 5 years to get information? Why would you put a man that has honorably served for almost 20 years? Why would you disgrace him? Even if you hated him, even if you had the 40 grand over here and you had all this stuff, even if all of that is true, if you're Pete Hegseth, why aren't you doing the right thing? Why aren't you flipping the switch and saying, okay, there's enough evidence, credible evidence, to show that it is not a suicide. We either reopen it and make a determining factor that it's unknown what the outcome was or why it happened. At least give the wife and the children of a man who served for 19 years closure. Whistleblowers get absolutely just annihilated. I don't know if a new whistleblower over the last 30 years that hasn't been annihilated by a government apparatus or a judiciary, present company included. But why wouldn't you? Joe Price served for almost 20 years, 6 months away from retiring. And his family had to suffer as a result of it, in shame almost. Because, well, let's hypothetically say that she was living on base. You know, there's no like, hey, you can stay on base for another 5 years, you're out. It's just not right. All right, we're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, I'm just gonna ask the question. I want you to answer the question because I've had several people say that me being pragmatic and looking at things from a very academic and or institutional way makes me an anti-Semite, which means I'm a self-loathing individual. And they've done the same sort of dog whistles and taken this stance that, you know, Joe, you have to take a stance. They said the same thing when it came to Ukraine. Joe, you have to take a stance. You have to stand with Slava Ukraine. And when I said that I would stand on the side of Russia every day and twice on Sunday, they were disappointed in that. They even wrote stuff that I was anti-American. I didn't know that standing on the side of Ukraine, not standing on the side of Ukraine, made me un-American. And the things that we don't even know about Zelensky that are finally coming out, that I tried to talk about way back in 2022. I feel like I'm clairvoyant again. The fact that we could just literally create winners and losers and decide things and rewrite history and even rewrite the Bible and tell us what the Bible says. You have to do this without looking at historic markers about what everything is, who everyone is. No, they just go straight to dog whistles. You're a homophobe. You're an anti-Semite. You're this. You're that. You can't escape it. And this rhetoric, this anti-white rhetoric that happens, where they've separated themselves and it's just a group of white people that are attacked viciously every day. If you even talk about that, you become a racist. But if you're Jewish, you can't be a racist. No, because you're not white, and you're not, you know, you're the kingmaker. You're the one that stands up for, you know, people to be cats. I don't know. Anyway, we're gonna take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I got a lot to go over with you. I mean, you're gonna decide. By the end of it, we're gonna talk about what Tucker Carlson did and some of the things he said and did, and what that led to everyone saying that he's an anti-Semite. And we're gonna walk the problem. I'm gonna tell you what I think, and then at the end of it, you can decide whether or not I'm an anti-Semite. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. It's hot. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Okay, so what am I? I want to, I said this today. I mean, I put something out on X and on Facebook. And I said, evidently, if you're against faithless, atheist, Jewish people who do evil things and destroy everything they touch, you're anti-Semitic. Without regard to my mixed heritage, I would love to address it. I don't do team evil. I don't give a shit if you're Jewish, Muslim, or Christian. I stand for the biblical truths I know are real, not some made-up construct created by the Rothschilds or pimped out into our society by evil trash like the Clintons, Bushes, Bidens, and Obamas. I'll take my chances with thinking for myself, standing for humanity, and not allow someone else who institutionally supports a group who follows Satan quite literally to pick a side for me. No thanks. If God wanted us to follow the devil, he would have not have given us a brain and discernment. Loving people takes an enormous amount of restraint. Having courage to speak truth takes an enormous amount of faith that truth prevails. We have got to stop the influencer, the Laura Loomers of the world. I mean, she's flat retarded. And look, I'm not going to be very popular for saying this because, you know, frankly, someone will call me and say, you're now off that Christmas card list. Well, let's add the Christmas card list together. I've been off most people's Christmas card list for a long time. And people talk to me, I get conversations all the time. And they're like, Joe, you're too strong at the things that you talk about. You're not afraid to talk about the truth. You're not allowed to talk about Captain Obvious. And I find myself speaking and people, they pick it up and go, all right, that's what I think. Finally, someone's saying exactly what was going through my mind. I just don't know how to articulate it. But Tucker Carlson, I mean, it's not just Tucker Carlson. I mean, let's be honest. It's pretty much anyone that doesn't say, you know, give Israel free pass. And it's not give the people of Israel a free pass. It's give Bibi Netanyahu a free pass. And every tentacle that you have, every organization that's out there has at least one of these synagogue of Satan, you know, Jewish people that's on it that says, hey, look, I'm an atheist. I don't care. I mean, and we talk about lawyers, it's like it's a deep well. And so people have been saying, you know, about this all day. People have been commenting about it. But I mean, I'll put up a post and 800 people will like it, and this one had just under 100 people that had something to say about it. And someone came out and asked the question about the fact that, you know, should we not, you know, at least embrace people who don't have faith? And I was like, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is can we call out academically what we see to be absolutely fundamentally wrong. And killing people indiscriminately is wrong. Israel deciding that they're going to go participate in an attack with the United States, with Iran, is one thing. Taking it one step further where they go out and just wipe out thousands of people, most of them innocent people, is wrong. Going into Lebanon and saying, by the way, we're going to take the south part of Lebanon, is wrong. Killing indiscriminately. It didn't just kill Muslims, it didn't just kill radicals, it killed Christians, and lots of them. Because what is in the south of Sudan, or south of Lebanon? Christians. Coptic Christians and Catholics. And you cannot like what I'm saying right now, but stop telling me that I got to wear a football jersey and I can't point out that when somebody murders someone indiscriminately that you can't have an opinion about it. And then all I get is they have a right to exist. Does Israel have a right to exist? Do all people have a right to exist? Or is it only that we have to have a conversation about the right to exist when it comes to Israel? And can we be Israel's friend while also pointing out the fact that you shouldn't let your friends drink and drive? You shouldn't let them do fentanyl. You shouldn't let them take life into their own hands and hurt their family that sits behind them. And that, in essence, is what I get to. This has very little to do with whether or not I support Israel or don't support Israel. I am not a Zionist. I am not a Zionist in any way. I'm an America First guy. And by the way, America First means that I have to stand up for my Muslim brothers and sisters, and my Jewish brothers and sisters, and my Hindu brothers and sisters, and my atheist brothers and sisters. I got to stand up for my brothers and sisters in this country, in the United States. Which is why I have such a problem with this idea that we have to stand up and we have to stand for illegals. I do not have to do that. I have to stand. I give an oath to my country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, to our republic for which it stands. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's a pledge to our country. It's not a pledge to 195 other nations. It's not a pledge to one other nation. And we've turned what good to bad and bad to good. In World War II, Russia was our greatest ally. They lost over 40 million people. 40 million Russians died in World War II. And they became our enemy. I mean, right afterwards, they had an identity crisis that pushed us to a place where we walked in separate directions. We stopped trusting each other. And a large part of that is, frankly, that Russia found out all sorts of bad stuff about what we had done in the United States and who our allies truly were. These are books you can actually get a hold of, by the way. They exist. And still, I want to take a pragmatic approach to what we talk about when it comes to Israel. Well, here's where you know that you are captured and you are a slave. Here's how you know. Play this about Tucker real quick. This is him having a conversation with the Economist editor-in-chief. Go ahead and play it.
You are critical of the government of Israel. Do you believe in Israel's right to exist? Would you consider yourself a Zionist in that narrow definition?
What does that mean, a right to exist?
The existence of the political state of Israel as
but
it has existed.
A right. What does that mean?
That you think it should continue in its existence as a state right now. So you do not agree with Iran, for example.
Well, let me just ask, since you asked me the question, it's fair for me to get you to define the term so I can answer it. You've asked two questions. The first was, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? And the second question was, do you believe Israel should continue to go on as a nation state? And those are very different questions. So I often hear the phrase...
Having been created as a political entity in 1948,
does it have a right to exist? Is that what you're asking?
I don't want to get hung up on the right to should it continue to exist? That's how I define narrowly Zionism.
Because the phrase you used was devised by the Israeli government. Of course, does it have a right to exist? And so my question to you would be, what does that mean?
Why don't you answer my question? It's a very simple question.
I don't know what your question is. Are you asking, does it have a right to exist, or do I want it to exist? Do I seek its destruction?
Fine, answer it that way.
Well, of course I don't seek its destruction. I've already said, as you know, because I said it to you, I don't want Israel to be destroyed or have to use nuclear weapons.
We've established that you are in that narrow terms a Zionist. If that's how
I'm in no sense a Zionist. I don't want any country to be destroyed at all, and I don't want people to die, particularly ones who committed no crime, because I don't believe in killing innocents, period. That's the basis of Western civilization. Eastern civilization, it's a whole different view. They believe in collective punishment. I don't.
So you're in no sense a Zionist?
I don't even know what that means. Why don't you define the term, and then I'll tell you whether I am.
I've just defined it. And
What's
you said that a Zionist, in my narrow term, this definition is that the state of Israel, the political state of Israel, has the right to continue existing.
The right? Where does that right come from? What do you mean? These are I'm not being a lawyer about it. I just want to know what you're asking me.
You refusing to answer the question.
Because I don't know what you're asking me.
Let's go to the third.
Wait, no. I think a lot. You don't want to define your question, and I don't know why. I don't know what you're asking me. I've already said I don't want Israel to be destroyed. I don't want anyone to be killed. And you've said, does Israel have a right to exist? Does it have my question is, what right are you talking about? Does Britain have a right to exist? Does the United States have a right to exist?
There was a world order built up after 1945 which suggested that aggression should not be condoned into countries, that countries with borders have the right to intervene.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Which is why the first thing that Israel did within 2 weeks of this war starting, which is supposedly existential for them, was take southern Lebanon, take someone else's country, as they have done repeatedly. And no one even mentions that. And so I guess I would be opposed to that, because I think Lebanon has a right to exist. I thought Gaza had a right to exist. But I noticed that as soon as we start apportioning rights, only one country gets them.
No, I did not say that. You're absolutely putting words into my mouth.
So because I believe, here's what I do believe, since you asked. I believe in universally applicable standards. And if they're not universally applicable, they're not standards, they're preferences. That's why I believe in human rights, not ethnic rights. I don't think Jews have more rights or less rights than anyone else. I don't think Christians have more rights or less rights, blacks, Filipinos. I believe in human rights that derive from the creation of people by God.
So let me ask you, let me take a few things from this that you can. Number one, that the country of Israel, she admits that it was created out of a political creation. It was a political creation. It wasn't a biblical creation. So you can't have both. You can't have somebody that tells you that it was a political creation by the Rothschilds, because we know that that's the fact. And then on the other hand, go out and I'm pleading my case with you for one thing. Tucker Carlson has spent the better part of 20 years having conversations specifically about common sense. When he was on Fox News, he got in trouble because he would talk about election systems, and they had a $787 million settlement that frankly came out of nowhere. And with all the information they had in the Fox case, because that information was then shared back to Patrick Byrne in the Byrne Dominion voting systems, and he thought they were going to run roughshod all over Patrick Byrne, and that's not the case. That information was turned over to a sheriff to look into crimes that were committed by Dominion voting systems employees, including the CEO and Eric Coomer, the Director of Strategy and Security for Dominion Voting Systems. But if we're going to look at this from an academic standpoint, we can't, out of one side of our mouth, say that we're going to look at things academically, we're going to look at things institutionally, and then ignore the words of this woman, the Economist chief editor, and act as if she is has moral high ground. She said there was a new world order that was created after 1945. Well, we've been talking about world order for a long time. And I think the people that stood against that warned us about this, was JFK. He was killed. Along came Nixon, did the same thing. He was thrown out of office. Reagan came along, they tried to kill him. Matter of fact, they tried to kill him. Most men that try to kill other people in society are left in prison to rot till they die. But the person that shot President Ronald Reagan was let out of jail just recently, a couple years ago. We could talk about the bombers that bombed Congress, who then went on to work for Antifa, was pardoned just before, in 2021? Or it was 20, I'm sorry, it wasn't. It was 2016, 2015 by Obama. What's the right answer? Was it politically created? Was the country of Israel a political creation, or was it a biblical creation? And here's Mike Huckabee. We talked about this before, but this is Mike Huckabee. He's getting uncomfortable when he's trying to explain his stance on Israel's right to exist. And look, the reason why I get suppressed on X and all these different platforms is because my ability to deduct reasoning based on facts, not feelings, I don't give a shit about your feelings, are pretty simple. Now, I can say that I can support the people of Israel and that they have a right to live, because what Tucker Carlson said is absolute. And that is that there's human rights, not just Israeli rights, not just Jewish rights. And we haven't even started talking about the Talmud yet. And I'm not trying to say that we can't support Israel. I have a mixed heritage, so my entire being is at conflict with itself over being one that stands up for one basic principle, and that is human rights, and that we shouldn't kill innocent people, period. Play it.
You've spent a lot of time thinking about the right of the Jewish people to their homeland. Do the Irish have the same right to a homeland?
As long as they can defend it, and as long as they,
as long as they can defend it.
But Tucker, here's the point.
Wait a second.
I'm telling you.
Wait, hold on. Now you just flipped category. You're the minister here.
Yeah, and I'm telling you,
as long as they can defend it, and if they can't defend it, they lose the right.
Allowing me to tell you that I think that what is very, very special here is that there is a biblical, as well as an ethnic, and a historical. So you can take any one, but if you add them all together, biblical, historical, and ethnic, you have a very strong case that the Jewish people are living in a land that is indigenous to them, that has been their historic homeland for 3,800 years.
You can repeat it
and you can also look in the archaeology. The stones cry out.
Not true.
Okay.
Have you been to the city of David, for example?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know then that.
And I love it.
It's an amazing place.
agree.
It may be the greatest archaeological discovery in all of history because
great.
It's stunning. And they still continue to find things that date the Jewish people to this land archaeologically for 3,800 years.
We can date the British people to their land much longer, thousands of years longer. Stonehenge is 3,000 years older than any building built by the descendants of Abram in this country. And so it's fine. I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's right. I'm just wanting you to affirm that right, but it makes you uncomfortable and you won't. And I don't know why.
Because I've never honestly sat down and asked myself, are the lines around the
It's an
United
island, so we know what the
Kingdom,
lines are.
I'm saying, but are those lines, are those rooted in something other than the historical connection? Well, great, then they should have it. But
And
that's
they have a
question.
right to have it. But then you said if they can defend it, and if they can't defend it, they lose the right.
But I didn't say it was exclusive one or the other. I think you're really going off the trail.
I just want to know if these principles apply universally or if they only apply to the people of Israel. And my answer appears to be just the people of Israel. They're the only ones with these rights, and I just reject that.
You have a Mike who's a pastor who, one, says that the Irish, non-Irish are the ones that are taking it away from the Irish. Is it anti-Semitic to want people to live? Is it anti-Semitic to want people to have equal opportunities, to want my black brothers and sisters who are Americans not to have the only option they're given is genociding the next generation? While we step over them, much like we do in our culture in the United States, where you have someone that is foreign, you have someone from a foreign land that is basically creating the rules for the United States. And you'd be hard-pressed not to prove what I just said to you. Let's just be honest about what is happening right now. Much of our foreign policy and domestic policy is run by a small country in the Middle East. And we talk about the Rothschilds and we talk about this indexing of individuals that are this global cabal or whatever you want to call it. You don't call it a cabal, call it a family. Let's make it innocent. Let's say that there's a family of people. And they all stand together and they all make decisions for not just Americans, but people around the world. And they usher in this replacement theology where they take people from around the country, around the world, and they mix them together so much that it's like taking red ants and black ants, putting them in the same deal, shaking it, watch them attack each other until they destroy each other. Well, you sit from the top and watch it like a gladiatorial contest. Is there a difference? We look at what's happened in Ukraine, and you'd be hard-pressed not to understand what's happened in Ukraine. It was a country of roughly 45 million people. Do you know how many people live in Ukraine today? Less than 20 million. I think at last thought they thought there were 17 million people in the country of Ukraine. And you say, well, many people fled. Yes, they did. But many people died as they built up a wall around it, filled it up like a bathtub, and threw 60-year-old conscripted people, men, into battle, only to be fed to the meat grinder. And anyone that spoke out against it was executed. And yet we've been told inside of Ukraine we're not allowed to talk about the Azov Battalion, which is a Nazi battalion. But you get told by Zelensky, who, by the way, just a year before he became president, was on a show about becoming president as a comedian that was actually funded by a Russian oligarch. Ukrainian oligarch, sorry. Still an oligarch. We are living in a time right now where the truth doesn't seem to matter, that we can have influencers that are paid money and given a bag full of shekels to deceive and destroy the very people they say that they represent. And that's happening with our leadership all over the place. And I tell you how they separate the wheat from the chaff is that if you're over here and you actually 100% stand up and you're a Zionist for Israel, you have a chance of surviving. But if you don't, you go over here and we want to kill you. You become expendable. And what I'm saying is absolute. It's not maybe. Look at every politician that gets stood up on a pedestal. And you can be two things at one time. You can be for the people of Israel while also being not for the death and destruction of other nations. And look, the idea of going into Iran, it wouldn't have been my first choice. Wouldn't have been my second choice. Wouldn't have been my fifth choice. But there's opportunity in chaos, and frankly, maybe it had to happen, maybe it didn't. But what didn't have to happen is the secondary punch in the throat in order to kill tens of thousands of innocent people. They didn't have to go into Lebanon, in South Lebanon, and blow up a church and kill a father, that a Catholic priest, who frankly had stood for peace and tried to create harmony between different sects of Muslims and Christians and Jews for a very long time. Father Mahano just talked about this. But with such sharp teeth, you have this same conglomerate that is tied back to Mossad and the CIA, and they've done everything they can to not only destroy me, but destroy other people. And thank God I stay grounded and connected to Jesus. But let's be honest. They're not truth tellers. Ben Shapiro's not a truth teller. The head of The Economist is not a truth teller. Tucker Carlson's a very learned man. He spends time reading and studying the things that he talks about. He talked about Stonehenge. Stonehenge, by the way, has been around since 3100 BC. Long before there was this thing where 3,800 years Israel should have existed. Okay, well, if you go back before that, then the people of Britain, of the UK, the English, then they have a right to their own self-governance as well, which means they should be able to kick out all the people that came in and have taken over all their flats and treated them like second-hand citizens in their own country. Tell me I'm wrong. I would love you to tell me I'm wrong. But you can't. And when Tucker talked about the Irish, do they have a right to exist? And many people have said that they don't because they're white. But the people saying that they're not white are the Jews that are then saying that they want to treat Christians like dogs. And no matter which way you look, the Muslims think that Christians are dogs and the Jews think that Christians are dogs. And there is a group of people inside of the Jewish faith that are God-fearing people that think that they are just either crazy or evil. They think that. It's a large conglomerate, by the way, inside of the Jewish faith. They think that these cabals and these fraternities that have been built on evil standing shouldn't be. Ben Shapiro. He went after Tucker. And he says that Tucker's a racist and a bigot. I want to describe those words, but let's go ahead and play it. This is Ben Shapiro running to CNN to have a conversation about Tucker Carlson. Let's play it.
I think that Kevin really screwed things up last week when he decided to inject himself into this controversy with his vociferous defense that contained some rather charged language. I think he's doing the right thing by pointing out the obvious, which is that if somebody glosses Nazis on the air, that person probably should not be associated with a conservative think tank, and that everyone should have a duty to say that that is a bad thing to do. So I'm grateful to Kevin for doing that. I think it's a very good thing that he did that. The real issue here is I think that Tucker Carlson's morphing from, I would say, a very edgy right-wing political figure on Fox News, but certainly within the mainstream, into a conspiracist, a person who ideologically launders anti-Semitism, who ideologically launders all sorts of anti-Americanism on his show, and then airs it for the public to hear with interviews like the ones he did with Nick Fuentes, which was essentially a massage of Nick Fuentes. You know, I think that took a lot of people by surprise, probably including Kevin.
The Washington Free People.
The truth needs no filter. And a lie always needs protection. I'm not a big fan of Nick Fuentes. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan because he has he says some very dumb things. He's very smart. He's a very smart person. Saying stuff like, you know, he misses Obama and having adults in the room. Well, no, you don't, because Obama didn't have an adult in a room. He stood in the room and he lied through his teeth about much of everything that he said. And so there are certain things that can be true all at the same time. You can disagree with some of the policy decisions that are made by President Trump. You cannot disagree with the fact that he's making those decisions out of strength, and he's leading with strength. But if you think that you miss Obama and the Affordable Care Act, how many more of those could we actually survive as Americans? I mean, our gas is $5 a gallon now. It costs almost $2,000 a month for a husband and wife to have health care. Taxes are at an all-time high. We're trying to get it under control, and all we have is this judicial interference that stops any progress from the American people having any relief. At the same time, we can't get rid of illegals because even the people in red states are out there running around saying, oh, we're not going to cooperate with the feds in enforcing federal law. I mean, it's crazy. And all this comes down to the fact that there's a certain group of people that are running our country that feel like they are above reproach. And Ben Shapiro says that, you know, that he'd used every dog whistle in the world. He's a bigot, he's a racist, he's a conspiracist. He started off as a edgy right wing. Everyone is wrong except for the Jews. I'm being academic with you. I want to look back at October 7th. I want to talk about the betrayal of the Jewish people. 6.5 hours it took for IDF to show up. And during that time, innocent people, innocent Jews were gunned down, slaughtered, raped. It set the stage for an offensive that wiped out an entire region in the Gaza, turned it all to rubble. And I can say that without saying that I would stand with any sort of Antifa or some of these freaks that stand out there, you know, yelling about the fact that, you know, everything in Jewish world is bad. It's not. It's a beautiful place. Tel Aviv is one of the most amazing places I've been to. They're getting bombed right now. Innocent people have died. That can be true, and the lack of humanity and the betrayal against their own people can also be true. 6.5 hours, 7 hours, it is documented that they were told to stand down. Do not answer your radios, do not go in to help. And they were basically given a free pass. It's as if the Hamas and the leadership in Israel got together and said, hey, let's just go in there and just slaughter and rape and just have this is a jubilee of sorts. But the people that had to suffer through it, and then they created the propaganda, even though we could see it with our own eyes. It reminds me of seeing it with our own eyes related to the election fraud in 2020, 2022, 2024. And no matter what person that is an adult in the room, whether we're talking about Carrie Lake or Professor Clements or myself or Patrick Byrne, there's always an excuse why that person would be discounted over a guy that frankly doesn't know his ass from a hole in the wall, like Alex Halderman, or the Satanist, Eric Coomer, who had a puff piece written about him on the New York Times. And no matter where we turn, you want to stand up a guy like Ben Shapiro, so they can dog whistle again, and CNN and MSNBC, or now MS, whatever you want to call it, MS Now, can do whatever they can to speak with impunity and to destroy the lives and the reputations of other people. Tucker Carlson served for 20 years in it. And yes, his father was CIA, and he tried to become CIA as it came out when he was interviewing Putin. But every time that he tried to turn over a rock and actually get to the truth, it betrayed him as well. And you have other influencers that are taking shots at those that are standing up. And look, I am not telling you that I'm going against the president on his offensives against Iran. I can read between the lines. He said it very clearly today, this morning. I don't trust anyone. And he shouldn't. He shouldn't. He sees the next 2 years, and I know for a fact that he said this when he was sitting in his office, and he said, I'm fucked if you win and I'm fucked if you lose. I believe he said that. Because he recognizes that he has to be strategic, get 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. And so every time he turns around, he's got to overcome just another obstacle put in front of him by the Judases and Brutuses that are part of his administration and are part of this apparatus in D.C. And here's Bill Maher, by the way, going after Joe Kent and Tulsi and labeling them anti-Semitic. Go ahead and play it.
You have now this guy, Joe Kent. He quit this week. It was a big story. I think he was the counterintelligence guy. And he said, I can't go along with this because, you know what, he's been listening to too much Tucker Carlson. It's, you know, the Jews made us do it. It's just another version of anti-Semitism that comes out. First it was BDS, then it was their colonizers and genocide, which it wasn't. All these other reasons, like you can't have a state in the world that's based on religion, even though there's like 46 Muslim countries that are based on religion. Some have the name right in the title of the country. But whatever it is, you have all these. And now the big answer is, no, Israel made us do it. We're Israel's bitch. I don't think we're Israel's bitch. I think we're Israel's ally. But, you know, if I have to be on one side of this MAGA thing, either Trump or Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Nick Fuentes, I'll be with Trump on this one. Because that's the other side of MAGA.
Do you see what just happened? I think Bill Maher, you know, he's got to understand where his bread is buttered. But if you don't see what just happened, it is again creating a label, creating an opportunity, creating a football team you don't want to play for and you don't want to be around. And he lumped Tucker Carlson in with Nick Fuentes. He lumped Tucker in with Candace Owens. And these are people that ask questions. Now, Nick Fuentes is on an island all to himself. But if you don't think that this chaos was created, and now they're all anti-Semitic. Now, am I going to be put on the line as a self-loathing anti-Semitic individual? And if you don't think that there are tons of people in Israel who are Jewish, if you don't think that there are tons of Jews in the United States who 100% are fundamentally opposed to killing people indiscriminately, there are. A ton of them. I had a conversation with my friend literally 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And he's like, Joe, I'm very disappointed in where we're going right now. He says, I am genuinely concerned that Israel will cease to exist, and that there is a push right now to use the narrative of the Bible in order to drive things into existence, drive history to a place of great destruction. Now, he's a rabbi. He's a rabbi. But no matter where we go, we keep having the same conversation with people where they say that everyone's an anti-Semite. And now it's not just going after Joe Kent, a decorated man who lost his wife in battle as an American in foreign wars that we had no business being a part of. And we're saying the quiet part out loud. And my fear is that if we don't start separating the wheat from the chaff, the Jewish people from people that are doing some really evil things, that are hiding behind being Jewish, we are in big trouble. And not big trouble because of me, but big trouble meaning that you will have this thing that they're trying to hide behind. And you know that it's bad people doing it, but they're trying to hide behind Jews and say that it's anti-Semitic. It's not anti-Semitic to be academic. In my opinion, you can tell me at the end of this if I'm anti-Semitic or not. And maybe I need to go through some sort of retraining. But if we don't start separating people who are doing evil deeds and doing bad things from the good people that we have that are our Jewish brothers and sisters and down line, then aren't we setting ourselves up for a return of history? Going straight back to the place that we were in when we went through World War II? The justified killing of Jews just because they feel like every Jew is a bad Jew? I'm asking the question because, frankly, if you're for human rights, if you're for humanity, you have to stop looking at this from like these beer goggles that we're looking at it from right now. Here's Josh Hammer going after Tulsi for being, again, everyone is anti-Semitic. It is the new, you're a racist. Play it.
Multiple people around the same time, last fall, I don't remember the exact date, that Tulsi Gabbard, who is the director of national intelligence, and she was Joe Kent's boss as the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, he worked under Tulsi Gabbard. What? I was told by numerous people who are very much part of the conservative ecosystem in D.C., these are well-sourced people, strong connections to the White House, they told me to be strongly on the lookout for Tulsi Gabbard and her office. They basically said that Tulsi Gabbard is running something of a shadow operation from her office, that she is personally, I was told this, I've met Tulsi, I don't know her well. I was told she's personally actually very anti-Semitic, and that she is heavily involved in a lot of the anti-Semitic influencer operations, and that she is potentially involved when it comes to trying to feed some of these narratives there. Now, I didn't put two and two together at the time and think that this trail led immediately to Joe Kent. I've known of Joe Kent for years. We follow each other on Twitter for forever. I knew that he had some isolationist-y leaning views on foreign policy, but nothing particularly extreme. He actually, up until yesterday or a year ago, whatever, was somewhat sober, at least, on issues pertaining to the Middle East, Iran, Israel, you name it, though. So I didn't put two and two together at the time that it immediately went to Joe Kent, but especially after his disgusting anti-Semitic dripping with the anti-Semitism conspiracy-laden resignation letter era, and I am not surprised that here is where we are at when it comes to trying to figure out who it was, and indeed it does seem, as Andrew on his show said, that it was Joe Kent leaking.
Okay. So Tulsi Gabbard is anti-Semitic. That's what he's saying. Well, if you know anything about Tulsi Gabbard, she's Hindu and had to deal with much of the religious bias towards Hindus for a long time. She visited Auschwitz. She stood up against she opposed the boycott, divestment, and sanctions deal against Israel. But because this guy says that she's anti-Semitic, because Joe Kent was there and now she's supposedly the voice behind all this anti-Semitism, these are dog whistles and tropes that are used in order to put dogs back in their place. And these are typically run by people who are faithless, godless, atheistic, Jewish people, and or people that are apologists that frankly get some benefit out of it. I think Stephen Miller's a good dude, but he's Jewish. So should I hate Steve Miller because he's Jewish? Or should I look at the things that he's done inside the administration to call out things that are really bad in our society? Am I a partially anti-Semitic individual? Am I like bipolar anti-Semite? Or can we just have an academic conversation about what we can see right in front of us? But you have these people that point to Tulsi Gabbard and say, well, she defended Ilhan Omar back in 2019. And I would say, she had to come out and say, listen, you have to be able to pay attention to the foreign policy influences that this little country in the middle of the Middle East has. And we care so much about what happens to Israel. How about the millions of women and children that died in Iraq in the second Gulf War? In the first one, it was over 500,000. When Madeleine Albright got on 60 Minutes and said it was absolutely worth it, it served our interest, that 500,000 women and children died in the first Gulf War. So it's okay to kill 500,000 people. And what do you think is going to happen to the people that are left behind? The generation of people that are left behind, you're going to turn them into terrorists. And I know too much about the area to talk about the fact that, you know, what once is our enemy, or once is our friend, is now our enemy. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that the United States is seen very clearly as a dog that is your friend one minute, but is rabid the next. You never know whether the United States is going to bite you or protect you. And I'm sorry to put it in that regard, but our foreign policy is run by an intelligence unit that is not of its own. It doesn't have its own autonomy. We make those decisions based on other intelligence communities and the fact that they're largely unchecked. Whether we're talking about the CIA or the FBI, it is institutionally rotted, just like we talked about when we talk about the judiciary. And the problem is that as I talk about this, I got this library of knowledge in the back of my brain, and I'm walking through and I'm going, okay, well, she's not an anti-Semite either. But everything now feels as if we're in a state of constant oppression. And it's one group doing it. It's the faithless, godless people that are doing it. And you got the Anti-Defamation League, and you got all these different organizations that can come out and they can stamp a dog whistle right on your forehead and say, you're a part of a hate group. And I could just be speaking truth. But they have taken people like Tucker Carlson, they have taken people like Candace Owens, and they've made them pariahs, which make it impossible for them if they want to go out and get an advertiser, because who's going to want to advertise for someone that's considered a anti-Semite? I mean, you only have certain people that are willing to do it. So they're destroying society by dictating and creating tags on people, much like they did in Nazi Germany in World War II, and it turned itself. And when it turned quickly. So we owe it to our Jewish brothers and sisters to root out this fraternity that frankly is operating with the utmost evil in mind. And now I think I understand what President Trump said when he was asked, do you think you'll go to heaven? He's like, no, I don't. He is functionally going after what he thinks he can go after. And in the middle of it, he has to make compromises, and that compromise is driving President Trump crazy, if I had to guess. Let's go ahead and play this. This is a sheriff in Wisconsin that saw a meme and arrested a man because he put a meme of a Jewish star on his forehead. He called it anti-Semitic, and now is arresting him for this. Go ahead and play it.
I give you this by way of example. Some pond scum felt empowered and emboldened enough to put this picture of me up to try to threaten and intimidate me, which of course he didn't do because I signed up for this. And by the way, the person that did this said a bunch of terrible things, not just against me, but against a lot of groups and individuals, who, by the way, was arrested today in Wisconsin. My point is this, though. If this person is emboldened and empowered enough or feels safe enough to do this for me, what does he do to a kid? What does he do to a Jewish family walking down the street? And that's because of the normalization of this. Watching this on television and saying, okay, I feel empowered enough that I can do this. Well, A, you can't. And B, if you think you can do it to somebody that's in law enforcement, again, what are you going to do in an alley or in a street to a Jewish family or a kid walking down the street? We say no. We're drawing the line.
An internet meme now is what you would do if you're walking down the street. So showing frustration over what you can see academically. And I don't know the circumstances behind how Sheriff Bouchard was seen as a, I thought it was kind of funny. I mean, it's a Jewish star on him with his you know, the Jewish locks for, you know, a traditional Orthodox Jew. Is there a growing amount of resentment towards these faithless atheist Jews? The answer is yes. In Colorado, the governor, secretary of state, the attorney general, much of the power structure that is AGs, they're Jewish. They're overrepresented in Colorado if you look at the judges and all the way down, and I'm talking about faithless atheists in those environments, by nearly 70x, 4% of the population-ish, 45, 50%, 100% of our executive leadership in Colorado. Are they overrepresented? And by the way, these aren't people that go to the synagogue and are productive parts of the community. They're not those things at all. Jared changed his name. Jared Polis was Jared Schultz. Can we be academic about it and see the damage that's been done to the state of Colorado over the last 8 years? We went from 4th best place, safest state in the nation, I think it was 4th or 5th, to the 3rd most dangerous, violent crime state in the nation. Our budgets are up 145%. We're the #1 hub for stolen vehicles. We've lost our rights to defend ourselves. Our elections are absolutely just terrible. From an education standpoint, less than 25% of the kids graduate proficient in anything, math, science, reading. We're 7th on the incarceration list of number of incarcerated individuals. I mean, what we tell farmers that they have to use only registered seeds. We're trying to make the state the pimp for prostitutes. Everything is legal, from mushrooms all the way up to marijuana. We have safe needle sites, and homelessness that is running rampant, that has grown by nearly 600, 700%. I made that number up. 7x, I think is what it was. 6 to 7x. So 6 to 700% more. And it's run by the synagogue of Satan. Not by the synagogue, the godless Jews that are in our community, but run by a group of people that, I mean, you have a governor that has been known for deviancy nearly his entire life. You have an AG that frankly has sued President Trump 59 times, and he's lost nearly every one of them. You have a Secretary of State that frankly put the BIOS passwords on the internet for people to get access to. You have criminals that are being left out on the street that murder someone and rape. You had the rape of a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and he said, okay, he can't stand, he's not competent to stand, so they let him go. You had an 11-year-old that they tried to abduct from a park, and again, let him go. You have to rape. They want to make it so you can rape 3 children or one child 3 times. I'm sorry, one child. You have to rape a child 3 times before you even go to jail for it. 39 teachers in 2025 were arrested for sexual misconduct against children. This year it's already 27. And I just heard there was another one that just came out. And while we have red parts of the state that frankly they can't steal just yet because frankly there's too many of them there. All the judges are appointed by this radical leftist loon bag, synagogue of Satan evil guy named Jared Polis. And no matter what attorney you talk to in the state of Colorado, doesn't even matter. I have a friend who's an attorney and he's a municipal judge. And he'll tell you, he says the system is literally broken. I have another woman that I'm friends with that was a judge, a magistrate. She goes, Joe, you would never even believe what they wanted me to do. They wanted me to basically let the public defender's office run the bench in a conservative part of the state. And then you have rabbis that speak like this. And I'm asking you the question, am I anti-Semitic? Is there a place that we can get to a common ground where we can decide that the people of Israel have a right to exist, and yet Americans have a right to self-reliance as well, to their own sovereignty? Because right now we don't have it. We have foreigners that run everything. We have a foreigner in New York City. We have foreigners that are inside of our Congress that can barely speak English. And those are the people that Americans actually chose to actually represent them. That's not true. It's absolutely not true. It's a foreign invasion. That's what we're dealing with right now. Play it.
Because the most powerful nations in the world have to go down to their knees. That's what happened to Egypt. That's what's going to happen to America. That's what's going to happen to Germany. That's what's going to happen to France. That's what's going to happen to London. England's going to happen to Poland. That's what's going to happen to Russia. That's what's going to happen to China. But we're almost there, guys. It's happening. This is it. They're all going to go down to their knees, and especially the Western ones. They're going to go down hard for how they treated us over the last 2,000 years, for the destruction of the Second Temple and how they treated us. Hashem's going to take them down hard, because the reason God's doing this is for His name in this world.
So you have imams in the Islam talking about conquering the West. You have rabbis talk about it as well. And yet Christians are over here like, hey, just love everyone. And yet everyone hates us and wants to kill us. They want to kill everything that's good. This is the hardest show that I've done. Out of the 3,000 that I've done, or whatever, how many I have done. Christianity, we talk about Jesus, we talk about the Bible. And I'm not trying to convince you not to be a Zionist. I'm not trying to convince you that you don't have your faith. I'm not trying to shake you. I am not trying to have you have an aha moment. I don't want to break you down. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to understand, am I an anti-Semite for pointing out the fact that I don't want people to die? And how could you be a Christian and say you want people to die? And I do recognize that there is no hate like a Christian's love. There is none. But do you know what has to be destroyed in order to launch this world into darkness? Christianity. The hard part about doing this show is because as I start examining my faith, and I go to Mass often, it's hard for me to figure out in my multiple personalities, Christian, Catholic, Mormon. I got Mormon in my family, Jewish. Can I separate Baptists? I did Catholics and Baptists. You got all this stuff going on. And in Christianity, you have people that are standing out that understand, and they read and they study the Bible, and I used to have this conversation with imams over at Oxford, or talking to religious scholars that were in Saudi Arabia or other parts of the Middle East. And you say, Joe, why would you do that? It's because I've always been searching for an understanding of the Gospels related to the Abrahamic faiths, and how do we get to a place where we can just stop killing each other over some of the dumbest stuff known to man? Like, we just killed a bunch of people in Iran, and they just said, okay, we're not going to do anything having to do with nuclear weapons anymore. Why couldn't we have gotten there before we actually went in there and just slaughtered people? I don't know. I'm not on that. That's not my deal. But here's a Christian minister a traditional minister that is talking about the Talmud. And does being academic make you anti-Semitic? Again, two things be true at the same time. Can you support Israel, right to exist, while still saying what's happening right now with these people like running Colorado and what they're doing in other states? Can you point that out and say that that's evil? And can we hold evil people accountable for betraying the American people and stealing the sovereignty of a nation? Play it.
But we're also seeing American politicians claiming that it is the Christian duty to do so, to support Israel. And then, of course, by implication, the duty of all Christian listeners in America to show this unwavering support for Israel. This is a modern heresy. We must be clear, Israel, the people of God, is the Orthodox Church. There is no special dispensation outside of Christ. And those who reject him, reject Christ, whether Jew or Gentile, reject salvation. Christians must know that the Talmud blasphemes Christ. It blasphemes the Mother of God. There is no separate, no second, no different salvation. The economy of God is in Jesus Christ alone.
In Jesus Christ alone. John 14:6 talks about the fact that you cannot come to God except through Jesus. That Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. We started off the show of, is Job Price, was he murdered? And he was a SEAL. And the information was ink dry for 7 years. He committed suicide. That fact was done. I mean, it was factual. It was written down. If there was a book in history up until that point that Matt got a hold of that record, it was that Job Price committed suicide. All of a sudden, the family says, hey, can you look at this? And I'll use the same thing when we start looking at the Bible and the fact that priests and pastors and everyone else tells us who we have to support, what we have to support, what we believe. And they make it sound so artistic, eloquent. And they're like, really, you have to, because it says right here in Genesis 12, Genesis 13, Genesis 12, you have to. It says right here, you have to, those that bless Israel. And if we want to get academic about what happened, what's said in the Bible, they're talking about the Samaritans, and the Samaritans, there's less than 2,000 of them that exist, or just about 2,000 of them globally today. And you could trace it back to a certain bloodline. It's a very, very specific bloodline that exists today. I mean, you go check me out on this, please do. And by the way, Jeff, I don't know what you're talking about to say that Islam is not a part of the Abrahamic faiths. It absolutely is a part of the major monotheistic faiths tied back to the prophet Abraham. Look it up. And we can have conversations about what you believe based on what you read, and what I believe based on what I read, and I'll be okay with it. I'll be okay with those differences. Just like I'm okay with the fact that you can sit here and tell me that, that you have to 100% bless Israel, and that means that you have to bless a political, what just said, a political thing that was developed, created, and somewhere now you've established a faith-based Christian architecture around so that it can be protected. while basically Christians are being shunned and destroyed all over the world. And I am not just talking about political persecutions that end in death. We can talk about opportunities that they're shunned from, positions of power, political appointments. We could talk about all the way across the board. When people find out that you're Christian, they limit your access. Because there's something to be said about Christians, and that is that they are mostly good. There's a lot of bad ones, though. That's why I say there's no hate like a Christian's love. Like playing whack-a-mole. So let's just talk it through. You have a guy that for 7 years, they said, killed himself naked. You got Matt that went through and found out that he was murdered. We took it to Pete Hegseth, who said, here's the text messages. He absolutely did not commit suicide. It'd be really easy for them to do the right thing, maybe not get to the bottom of it. God knows that when you get up there to your maker, God's going to make it right. But at least do right by the woman that stood next to her husband for nearly 20 years. And the man that served. Reset the standards by which their children see their father. Give him a rightful exit as a Navy SEAL. Honor him and his commitment to those 19 and a half years that he gave. But the story was ink dry, 7 years. Matt disrupted that. Pete Hegseth dug into it, only to probably get to the bottom of the barrel and decide that the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And frankly, that's where we're at right now in the United States when we talk about anti-Semitism. The juice is not worth the squeeze. We'd rather just attack Tucker Carlson. We'd rather attack Candace Owens. And Nick Fuentes is on a whole world all of his own. I mean, I don't even know what to say about him. I think he says stuff that is academically false, that has no institutional value. But he does so to get people riled up, and then that chaos then sticks to other people like Tucker Carlson and others, like some sort of stink that they can't get away from. But I've been to these different countries. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to Israel. I've been to Africa. I've been to these tribal nations. I've seen what it looks like. And I've also seen the sharp stick of the American foreign policy. I've seen Susan Rice lie to the UN and say that there's genocide and ethnic cleansing going on here. Look at what's happening in Libya. And I've seen what we've done to other nations. I've seen the stories that we've told. And frankly, they've rewrote history and made people out to be bad people that are good people, and made good people out to be bad people, or bad people out to be good people. And we're stuck believing that somewhere along the line that it's okay to go in and bomb out and take over, a quarter of Lebanon, another sovereign nation who didn't do anything, and kill people indiscriminately. I'm not okay with it. And I don't think you should be either. You have a sheriff that's fighting for ballots that don't exist. And every day we have whistleblowers that are told that somewhere along the line that that you don't know what you're talking about. What do we got? Dan Stricklatter says, I'm sick of passive Christians who have let this happen. This false doctrine was taught in ministry, and the evil has allowed this, and many pastors have been tricked. Joe is right, but German Catholics helped write the Muslim texts back in 1609 to what it is today. Catholics, you're right. I got you the first time. Islam may be an Abrahamic, but it is incompatible with Christianity. So is Judaism then. Sorry, Chris. One can't be true without the other. Both consider Christians dogs. Both think that we're infidels or Gentiles. Both have a high disregard for the fact that we have our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Gambling Man says you have to be suffering from cognitive dissonance to not see the power Israel holds over the United States. Dancer says that Candace has always been a grifter. I don't know. Maybe. Joe, I'm not a Zionist or a dispensationalist, nor am I a sucker. Just because Arabs have been predominantly forced into Islam has nothing to do with their bloodline. That's where you're wrong. You're wrong, actually. What you said there, Jeff, is fundamentally wrong. Because Jesus was an Arab. He was a Palestinian Jew. That is a assassination, period, full stop. I don't know what you're talking about, Smugsley. Gambling, that's a false dichotomy. Better way to say it, Chris, is I think that would be a false dichotomy. Let me explain. Yes, so is Judaism. Yeah, Judaism. Allah is not Yahweh. Monotheism is nothing to do with the defining of who is actually God. And correct, Judaism is not compatible with Christianity. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. Can we set aside all the faiths and get to a place where we can just say that we should respect humanity? And I'm not talking to you from the kumbaya, sit around and try to come up with some sort of, belly scratcher on what we can and cannot do. Our policies and politics in this country are largely run by retards. Let's just call them what they are. But we're so, tied into they're using the word retard that we barely even scratch the surface of being outraged by how our children are being treated, or even how we're being treated in this constant slave state. And if Islam and Judaism is incompatible with Christianity, then why the hell would we be told that if you do not bless this little country that was created by the Rothschilds, that somewhere along the line, you won't be blessed? No, you won't be blessed because we're captured. And you have a lot of people that are Jewish, that are faithful Jews. You have a lot of Jews that believe in Jesus. True story. It's just something to think about, okay? But I think we've gotten to the end of it where I'm almost, nobody's called me an anti-Semite yet, but there still is time because Kyle Clark is going to get a hold of this, and the Jewish compaction faction, whatever you want to call it, is not going to want to be academic and not want to talk about the fact that the people in Israel are held hostage there as well. And there are plenty of good Jews, and there are plenty of people that I support that are Jewish, and I have plenty of friends that are Jewish. And I have plenty of people in my family that are Jewish. And I could go down the line. But I'm going to tell you something. When I talk to Jewish family members, you know what they tell me? Joe, keep going. Because if we don't start talking about, if we don't start being truthful about where our roots are and respecting and getting rid of this Talmud part of, it's really bad. It's setting up standards that basically say that it's just really bad. It's bad. I cannot look at the Talmud and say that is even representative of the Jewish faith, the Old Testament. It's incompatible with the Old Testament, in my opinion. Incompatible, fully. No, Chris, I didn't say you did. So I don't want you to be defensive. He's never said to Biden the Genesis claim to bless the political state of Israel. I didn't say you did. So please don't mistake the fact that I didn't say something that I'm saying something or I'm indicting something, because I'm not. Yeah. All right, I'm just looking at all the comments really quick. She started out as a leftist. They hated her and doxing site against conservatives. And she got Blacksit, then MAGA, then TPUSA, so she got booted. And MAGA and Daily Wire, then conspiracy, she-mail stuff, then Kirk. Exactly, Joe. The nations were blessed in the seed of Abraham, that is Jesus. We bless Jesus and we are blessed. We are not blessed for blessing a satanic globalist banker state called Israel. Wow, that's big. I don't know if I would call it a satanic globalist banker state, but there are more pedophiles in Israel than per capita than any other place in the world. Well, I don't know if you could say that either. That is a statement that has been made, and maybe it could be true, or maybe it could not be true. What does Mod Trend says? What does God's blessing consist of, material or spiritual? I think you have to say that it's both, Mod Trend, don't you? Don't you have to say that materially it blesses you with peace, and spiritually it blesses you with peace? So both can be true at the same time. It depends on what you're measuring, I think, but I could be wrong. I don't think the point is for me to be right or wrong. The point is that I've had people like this guy, Dave, I remember his name, Dave Hunt, who came out and said I'm anti-Semitic. And then somebody said that Joe's a racist. And I was like, well, and then I think my sister said something about that and said, well, he's not a racist. And then I've been called a bigot. And I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't check either. So I don't know what is going to check or not check, but that doesn't check either. But the reality of it is that God gave me a voice, gave me a mind, and he told me, like, listen, this is, and he didn't come down, no burning bush. It's just, okay, I have these thoughts and this makes sense. Can we just be Captain Obvious for a minute? Yes, the Rothschilds are the satanic globalist bankers. I agree with that. But, you know, yeah. All right, we're out of time. We're way out of time. We went way over today. You guys got more Joe time than ever before. Okay, so I want to tell you guys about a sponsor we have coming on. It's USCCA. I'll be having a big thing I put out for it. But basically it's this. If you have a gun in your home and you don't live in 3 states, I'm going to have a deal put together for you where you can get some, you want to make sure that you get protected, right? All the rights that you have as a gun owner are going away. The chances of you being Daniel Pennied are pretty high. And so USCCA, you can check out, it's the ability to protect yourself. It's Concealed Carry Association, U.S. Concealed Carry Association. Anyway, they're going to put together a deal for us. We're going to put it out there, and you'll have the ability to become a member. You can become a member at DCF, so if you come into town, you also get free discounts and a bunch of other stuff, but you're also going to get access to this coverage by USCCA at a discount. And this will allow you that if you're ever in a bar fight, it'll cover you. If you hit somebody with a bat, it'll cover you. If you brandish a firearm and you get charged with brandishing a firearm because you're trying to have it be a deterrent, it'll cover you. It'll pay for up to $2.5 million in bail. It'll pay the $250,000. It'll pay. It does a bunch of stuff. Now, before I get into the specifics of it, we'll have a page that you can go to and you can read through it and go through it. But really, I wanted something that actually meant something. So I've been meeting with all these different advertisers, and this is kind of the one that stood out to me as, actually, there's like 4 or 5 of them right now. But can people that listen to the show, they're 99% gun owners, I hope. I hope you guys are gun owners. If you don't have a gun, man, hedge your bets, buy a gun. Go to dcfguns.com. You should always have a gun mod trend. Always. Yeah, sorry, I'm reading some of the comments again. Turns out lazy, so racist accusations. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so anything that you do related to protecting yourself-ish, it'll pay for. It'll pay for civil liability, criminal liability. It pays for all sorts of stuff. And it covers you so that you don't have to lose your livelihood if you have to defend yourself, right? Because going out and getting a GoFundMe, if you're not Daniel Penny, is going to be very difficult. And I will just tell you, in the state of Colorado, nearly 100%, I don't know what the number is to date, of people in Colorado that brandish a firearm or, have to defend themselves are charged with something, right? Or have some sort of legal implication tied to them shooting or stabbing or whatever they had to do in order to protect their family. So just make sure you're protected. So we'll have that out probably by the end of next week, and you'll have that ability to get to it. And then we have some other things that I think you'll be, just really excited about that's not vitamins or gold. Although I would like to get to a place where I could just ship gold directly to your house and silver, and it's down right now. All right. USCCA covers bat attacks. It does. So bat attacks meaning that you have a bat, not bats is like flying around. Bats. As in you have a bat, you beat a guy, you have a cover you there as well. Yeah, I mean, Dancer, depending on what state you're in, I could probably break down a gun on the show and show you guys how to do it. Yeah, pretty crazy. All right, let's pray it out. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. Make sure you give us a share. If you're on one of the deals, all I ask is if you're on If you're on Facebook right now, just hit the share button and say, I think Joe's not an anti-Semite. Watch this show and tell us what you think, right? And the same thing goes for X or goes for any of the other platforms. And give us a thumbs up if you're on Rumble. You are the ones that are the arbiters of how we grow. They are not going to do us any favors. So, and the fact that I talked about this and didn't take a side, they're going to see it as taking a side. So it is what it is. All right, let's pray. Father God, we're grateful to have this conversation today. We're grateful for the conversation we can have related to Job Price. We're grateful for Matt doing the work in order to uncover the injustice against Job and the sacrifice that he made for 19 and a half years serving our great nation. So Father, we just ask that you let truth prevail and that you can lift that veil back and that Job's family can finally get peace. We also ask, Father, that we can get to the bottom of this this friction that's been created in our communities, in our country, and around the world. That's not driven by you. It's not driven by goodness. It's driven by selfish ambition and by a group of people that have disregarded humanity in so many ways. Now, whether those people are Jewish or Muslim or Christian or atheist, Father, we don't know what their heart is, but we do know what the outcome has been by some of these people who have told us that we are not allowed to separate them from our Jewish brothers and sisters. And I don't know where to take that. So I just ask you that you will guide us in a way that we can do your biddings, that we can be honest in our dealings, and that we can have good debate about what it is that we're facing as a country, as a community. Father, we're in this kind of weird world where right is wrong and wrong is right, and we're told to debate the ridiculous. And so, Father, we just ask that you break it down for us. We're ready. We're ready to kind of get to the conclusion of, how do we protect our communities and our children, and get to a place where we can reject the evil that is so evidently in front of us. Father, we thank you, and we just ask you to give us the ability to stand together and to do what's right. I say these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we'll see you guys later. You can't F it up, seriously. Just make sure the guns are unloaded before you start. Yeah, don't take Jeff's advice, Danster. Let's go watch a couple videos. March Madness, baby. March Madness. Go watch some of those games. This should be pretty good. And otherwise, I will see you tomorrow. We went way over today. Take care. God bless you.
Rising from the fight for the forgotten and the free, exposing rigged machines, Coomers, lies, dominions, deceit, pays a grand each day, shielding truth from corrupt halls, but he won't back down, standing tall through it all. Art and Tina Peters break the chains that bind her tight, hand count votes and one day bring the fraud to light. No more mailing scams, no machines to steal the night, restore the people's voice, make Colorado right. Governor Oltmann, lead us bold and true, badass for the have-nots, fighting through and through. Apply this property tax, cut the tolls away, shrink the bloated state, let the people have their say. It's our rally call, truth and freedom rise and watch the tyrants fall. Untamed Colorado, strong and proud, we'll be one man for the people, set our great state free. Help the single moms, bring back trade school strong, opportunity for youth, where the brave belong. Audit every NGO, ban the wolves that roam, reclaim our stolen land, bring the power home. Eric Coomer's fraud, dominions, rig design, expose the stolen votes, cross a dangerous line. No more victimhood, no chains on you and me. He's running for governor for real liberty. Smash the fraud machine, pardon heroes jailed for the have-nots. Rising truth will never fail. One warrior defies the corrupt elite. Colorado reborn, strong on our feet. Governor Oltmann, lead us forward. Governor, lead us bold and true. Governor, freedom forever, Colorado. Rise up, untamed, in the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam. Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave